So I'd been living a second life for 18 years, and the highlight was asking my best friend if he'd ever risked his life for himself. We were sitting in our high school classroom, and Pei Ran didn't even look up from his test paper before answering that he fought for good meals twice a day, rain or shine. Classic Pei Ran. I told him I'd found the last piece of the puzzle for my life, and immediately he assumed I'd found spare change. I had to explain that from now on, whenever I ate meat, he'd have a bowl to wash. He called me superficial and asked me to help him finish his cleansing talisman homework, which is one of 999 mandatory exam questions. I pushed it away. The man had spent 3 hours on it and was now using it as a homework pass. Fitting. Then I noticed the progress bar in my vision. System activating. After 18 years of transmigrating, I finally got a system. My backstory is the whole sad standard package. Parents divorced young, birth mother vanished, father died after remarrying, stepmother's just a regular person trying to raise me and my stepsister in a world where immortal cultivation is everything. 2 lifetimes of mental resilience kept me from spiraling, but now everything could change. The system announced itself as the only seed of fire system for the age of Dharma decline. It said spiritual chi had completely vanished, the Tao had collapsed, and all the embers of every law were about to go out. Its grand mission was to help me reignite the Tao fire and restore the flourishing age of the immortal path. And me, apparently, will be the only immortal in the whole world, which was weird because 9 out of 10 parts of that pitch didn't match reality. I actually pinched Pei Ran's arm to check. His hand jerked, and the last stroke of his talisman went haywire. Sword chi erupted from the bottom corner and shredded his test paper into confetti. 3 hours of work, gone in an instant. The whole class stared. Pei Ran stared. I felt killing intent radiating from across the room and told him my stomach hurt. Locked myself in a bathroom stall. Here's the thing about the world I live in. It's called Blue Star, and 587 years ago, demons showed up. Evil, powerful, bloodthirsty things that human technology couldn't touch. The Dark Age. Then cultivators from another world came through the void, helped drive the demons back, unified civilization, set up the federal government, and the whole place has been booming ever since. Spiritual chi is recovering. Secret realms keep appearing, and the 2 Realms Management Committee reports steady growth every single year. This is not a Dharma-ending age. This is a golden age of immortal cultivation. The system had clearly picked the wrong century. The system issued my first quest with all the drama of a dying prophet. Collect 10 stalks of luminous grass. In the age of Dharma decline, spiritual chi was supposedly so thin that low-level spirit plants like luminous grass, which contained the faint essence of moonlight, were already legendary. They grew in freezing layers of gale winds and were extremely difficult to pick. The system said this was the first step to heaven-defying change and begged me to try my best, even if it meant being crushed to pieces. The reward was a 100% increase to my spiritual chi absorption efficiency. Not a bad carrot, except I had absolutely no idea what luminous grass was. I'm a third-year high school student stuck at chi refining 3rd layer, and if I don't break through to 4th layer by October 1st, I lose my shot at the Immortal Path University. Doubling my absorption rate could save me, but only if I could actually find stuff. My education in this lifetime had never once mentioned luminous grass. I figured it was a plant that only existed in whatever post-apocalyptic fantasy world the system thought it was running in. Then Pei Ran, gnawing on a spirit chicken leg, casually told me those narrow grasses with faint pores all around us in the school greenbelt were luminous grass. The system's legendary, almost extinct moonlight essence plant was growing in the school landscaping. Asking a random NPC had actually been useful. That evening, I found an excuse to let Pei Ran leave first and stayed in the cultivation room. Maybe it was the excitement, but my cultivation, stagnant for months, seemed to advance a small step. After the room emptied out, I snuck into the green belt at night. The campus was quiet, autumn breeze blowing, security patrolling in the distance. Luminous grass grew in thick patches along the roadside, so I bent down and started collecting. 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Then I heard it. a voice from deeper in the bushes, saying things that had no business being said on school grounds. I squinted into the darkness and spotted two people pulling at each other behind a shrub. Unfortunately, they spotted me too. Three faces met in the dim light, and they were way too familiar. It was the class monitor, Lu Yi, and the class bell, Zhuang Chuanya. The system immediately pinged a new task about obtaining cultivation resources from two people carrying secret treasures, but at that moment I was mostly just standing there, caught in the most awkward triangle of my young life. I pointed at Pei Ran and told him I'd trust him this one time. If he was lying about the luminous grass, I'd immediately tell Zhuang Chuanya he'd had a crush on her for 3 years. In any immortal society, a high school boy's crush is the most powerful spell that exists. His body went rigid, his face went red, and he started stammering about nonsense. I bent down, pulled out a blade of grass, and the system confirmed it. 1 out of 10. It really was luminous grass, the stuff growing in the school greenbelt. The system's legendary, nearly extinct, moonlight essence plant that was supposed to be impossible to find. I asked Pei Ran if there'd been any news about spiritual qi dissipating lately. He said no, just a rumor about a small demon in the south of the city last week that the Public Security Bureau handled fast. That was strange. This wasn't the apocalypse. There were no signs of it becoming the apocalypse. So how was I finding the apocalypse system's required plants? Then it hit me. Before the Dark Age, Blue Star had no spiritual qi at all, just like old Earth. That was the real apocalypse. Without spiritual qi, luminous grass couldn't grow. The system must have arrived late, or rather, it was calibrated for a version of the world that no longer existed. Two bugs canceling each other out. I was a bug, the system was a bug, and together we made something that almost worked. The important thing was that the system still gave rewards. Completing tasks was easy when the legendary plants grew in the landscaping. I was about to leave everyone in the dust. Pei Ran asked what I was mumbling about and dragged me off to evening self-study. He stuffed his chicken bone wrapper in my pocket on the way. I asked him how much a tourist visa to the immortal realm cost. Over 100,000 spirit coins. I stuffed the chicken wrapper in his collar and ran. He chased after me screaming. Our voices carried on the evening breeze, him begging me not to tell Zhuang Chuanya. Me telling him his confession would be cringy. Normal Tuesday. Evening self-study ran from 7:30 to 10:30. First hour for homework, last 2 hours for cultivation. I submitted my assignments. Pei Ran submitted his without finishing them, and we gave each other a thumbs up like the scholars we were not. The school had 3 tiers of cultivation rooms. Public rooms, the size of 2 basketball courts, open to everyone. Medium rooms for the top 100 students, with twice the spiritual qi concentration. And 5 advanced rooms for the top 10, each for 1 person, with 4 times the public concentration. I ranked around 400th out of 700 students, so public room it was. We found a spot and practiced the 5 grains absorption technique, a D-rank method that cost 30,000 spirit coins to learn and 3,000 a month in pills and spirit liquids. 3 years, nearly 100,000 yuan. Cultivating immortality was expensive, and the school's letter grade ranking system, F through S, was apparently something the cultivation world picked up from English after the 2 realms started mixing. 2 hours passed. Maybe it was the system activation, but my cultivation stuck for months, advanced a small step. I told Pei Ran to go ahead and left. Once only a few people remained, I headed for the green belt. The campus was dark and quiet. Autumn breeze, distant security patrols. The luminous grass grew in thick patches along the roadside, so I bent down and started pulling. 2 out of 10. 3. All the way to 9. Then I heard voices from deeper in the bushes, words and tones that had no business echoing across a school campus at night. I squinted into the darkness and spotted 2 people behind a shrub. They spotted me too. 3 faces met in the dim light. Way too familiar. The class monitor and the class bell. The system immediately pinged a new task about obtaining cultivation resources from 2 people bearing secret treasures, and I stood there wondering how catching people in the bushes counted as a quest trigger. I looked at the 2 shadows and the new task. Not an illusion. The luminous grass quest was still active too, so the system could juggle multiple tasks. The couple looked embarrassed, especially Zhuang Chunya. She'd publicly declared she wouldn't date before graduation, and now I'd caught her with a boy in the grove. Though their clothes were perfectly neat, so probably just held hands. Just holding hands and making those kinds of sounds. The contrast was something else. Lu Yi, the class monitor, tall and thin with tiny eyes, coughed and claimed they were discussing studies. The pitch-black green belt was so much more conducive to academics than a well-lit classroom. I believed it completely. I had no interest in ruining their evening. Lu Yi had uncles in the condensing meridian realm, and he carried the quiet superiority of someone who'd never worried about money. Zhuang Chunya used B-rank cultivation methods too. Both of them played on a different field from me, and Pei ran. Amor Pei ran for exactly 3 seconds. Lu Yi led Zhuang Chunya out and handed me a white porcelain bottle. Teacher Zhao taught them classmates should help each other, and he'd been meaning to give me this condensing essence pill. Hush money. Over 1,000 spirit coins, and he'd been carrying it around just for me. I took it in one motion and assured him I'd gone straight home after self-study and hadn't wasted a second at school. He looked at me like a young man who understood the world. Target 1 done. We appreciated each other deeply. 2 souls brought together by fate in a green belt. He patted my shoulder, told me to work hard, and left. I turned my smile toward Zhuang Chunya. She said I was a good person. She really planned not to date before graduation, but the class monitor felt different. Then she walked away. I'd gotten nothing from her and been insulted in the process. He felt different. Yes, of course. He smelled like spirit coins. I opened the bottle and peeked inside. Rich medicinal fragrance hit me, and every pore relaxed. Good stuff. I recorked it, bent down, and pulled the last stalk of luminous grass. The system completely lost its mind. Couldn't believe I'd collected luminous grass so fast in an age where all methods were severed. Called me a chosen one. Said only I could revive the immortal Tao. Very dramatic. Then the reward. Spiritual chi absorption efficiency, up 100%. I shuddered. The spiritual chi around me felt denser, except it wasn't the chi that had changed. I circulated the 5 grains absorption technique and nearly lost it. Before, cultivating was like sipping milk tea through a straw. Now I was ripping the cap off and guzzling from the bottle. So much it was about to overflow. Is this what the world of a genius felt like? Not real genius. Real genius led in everything: comprehension, talent, technique, quality, famous teachers. I'd only improved 1 stat. But if spring had arrived, could mating season be far behind? A deep shout rang out from nearby. My chi and blood churned. Security. High-level chi refining cultivators from the school office. If they caught me damaging the green belt, written self-criticism for sure. I gathered spiritual chi in my feet and dashed away. My backup plan, if caught, was to declare myself Li Pei Ran of Senior 3 Class 6. But the guard didn't chase. Pei Ran's father had saved my life again. Lunch on him tomorrow. I scanned a shared flying sword and wobbled home. The sky was divided into invisible lanes at different altitudes. Higher cultivation, higher altitude, faster speed. Magical artifacts glowing like neon. Shared swords capped at 100 meters and 60 kilometers per hour. 15 minutes later, room 2502, building 13. Stepped out of the elevator to my stepmother and stepsister arguing. Xian wanted the amusement park. My stepmother said, next week was my cultivation payment day. Xian exploded. Always about my cultivation. What about her? Classmates would isolate her. She threatened to drop out, said she'd borrow the money herself. I opened the door and told my mom to let her go. It was important for her too. The apartment my dead father left us was under 40 square meters. 1 bedroom, 1 living room, 1 bathroom. 2 people in the hallway had to turn sideways. Lin Wan insisted I take the bedroom, while she and Xian slept in the living room. Lin Wan was under 40, cotton pajamas, soft features that must have been stunning once. How she ended up with my father was a mystery. If she was aged red tea, Xian was a rapidly growing vine. 13, slender, face caked in rebellious makeup, thick eyeliner, and an untamed gaze. A naive little wild beast. She turned away the moment she saw me, crossed her arms, chin lifted so hard her red four-leaf clover earrings swung violently. Linwon smiled, said family money would prioritize me since it was my third year. Xian straightened her bean sprout back and glared but said nothing. I told Lin once seriously that group activities mattered for a person's growth. The system immediately triggered a mission called sharing adversity. Cultivating in the apocalypse was hard, family support was precious, and it was moved I still remember my family in such difficult times. Objective: make my family happy twice through my own efforts. Reward: 1 cultivation technique proficiency replacement, self-selected, valid 3 days. My eyes lit up. The system was a bit blind, but it knew how to seize a moment. Why refuse a reward delivered on a silver platter? The last mission gave the myriad things sensing chapter, and anything from the system beat the school's 5 grains. With proficiency replacement, I could swap directly. Linwon frowned, worried about next month's resources. Xian secretly glanced at me, ears perked. I took Linwon's hands. Years at the stove had left them rough with oil blisters. She tried to pull away. I told her I was an adult now. Trust me. Then turned to Xian. She stiffened, refused to look, ear tips red. I said the family money going to my schooling had wronged her too much, but her brother had her back now. Linwon's eyes reddened, and she wiped the corners. Family feels happy, 1 out of 2. The people who truly love you are so easy to make happy. Xian finally turned, chin higher than ever, cheeks rosy. Said a few nice words wouldn't make her forget I owed her, and it would take a long time to pay back. Family feels happy, 2 out of 2. Heh, children are just children. Mission complete. The system praised me for valuing affection in the apocalypse, where brothers turned against each other. Reward issued. Usable anytime. I wasn't about to expose Xian. Over the years, I'd never disliked the girl for her attitude. Honestly, if I'd been in her position, I probably would have done much worse. The little girl neither harmed me nor drove me out, at most a bit rebellious. What big problem was that? Things cleared up. Linwon went to the kitchen to cook, and Xian, in a rare good mood, volunteered to help. The family of 3 enjoyed a delicious meal together. After dinner, I went to my room and started planning how to make money. I told Linwon not to worry, but I didn't actually have a solid plan yet. I decided to start with school policies and try to get some subsidies. In the Tianshu administrative region, students had to break through to Qi refining 4th layer before October 1st of their 3rd year to qualify for Immortal Path University. Otherwise, it was vocational school or regular university. When you broke through, the school provided a small subsidy, 2,000 spirit coins one time. Still 1,000 short of my monthly resource quota of 3,000. With less than 3 days until October 1st, and my cultivation still stuck at 3rd layer, I should have been declaring farewell to university. Except an unexpected event had occurred. I'd activated the system. All the New Year's money I'd saved over the years added up to just over 1,000. If I could break through within 3 days, at least next month cultivation resources were covered. The myriad things sensing chapter hadn't arrived yet, so I planned around the 5 grains technique. A flip of my right hand and Lu Ye's condensing essence pill appeared in my palm. 1 pill cost 1,000. My monthly quota could only buy 3, which was Lu Ye's weekly amount. Not to mention this was just one of his many resources. I joked that once I turned things around, I'd eat condensing essence pills like candy every day. Then caught myself thinking like the Empress making pancakes and the Western Palace concubine peeling spring onions. Even my daydreams were peasant grade. I swallowed the pill, adjusted my breathing, cleared my mind of distractions, and gradually became serene. 1 condensing essence pill plus the system's 100% absorption efficiency buff. I didn't believe I still couldn't break through to the 4th layer of Qi refining. 5 grains absorption technique, activate. Almost instantly, I felt the difference. A vortex of spiritual Qi erupted in our bedroom. Visible streams surging into my body, wisps of smoke rising from my head. The 5 hearts facing heaven posture, and the 5 grains absorption technique running at full power like a sheepdog corralling a flock that had lost its mind. The condensing essence pill dissolved into my blood and surged along my limbs, transforming spiritual chi into cotton candy that merged into larger masses. Most of it refined into my own spiritual power in the blink of an eye. I charged at the cultivation barrier that had blocked me for half a year. Bang! I trembled, cold sweat on my forehead, but joy surged. The barrier had loosened. Second time, third time, 10th time. Then I heard an eggshell crack, and countless rays of light enveloped me. I opened my eyes. I'd broken through, much faster than expected. The chi refining realm had 10 minor layers. Layers 1 through 3 were early stage, basically just stronger body and the ability to do the work of 4 or 5 normal people. But the 4th layer was a qualitative change. Middle stage now. My spiritual power capacity nearly doubled. My control over it improved so much that drawing a cleansing talisman went from 3 or 4 hours down to 2. That was also why only 4th layer cultivators could apply for Immortal Path University. The exam intensity meant a 3rd layer cultivator would suffer spiritual power depletion or mental exhaustion before it ended. Dangerous. Pass the exam, enter university, and even without reaching condensing meridian realm, graduation salary was at least 150,000 spirit coins a year. Lin Wan worked all year for barely 30,000. That kind of money would make her life easier and cover Xuanchuan's university expenses no problem. A cautious knock. Lin Wan's worried voice asking if I was all right. I opened the door. She stood there, face full of worry. Xian Xian was peeking from the living room mattress, but ducked when she saw me. I smiled and said I'd reached the 4th layer. Lin Wan's eyes went blank. Then her pupils dilated, her whole body trembled. She asked me to repeat myself. A phone clattered to the floor in the living room. I repeated it. This time she understood. Her eyes reddened. She covered her face. Tears of joy streamed through her fingers, shoulders shaking. No one knew how hard it was for an ordinary woman to raise 2 children in a world where the immortal Tao reigns. All those years of struggle, supported by the hope of us passing the college entrance examination. Now, just the qualification to register made it all worthwhile. In the living room, Xian Xian held her breath, picking up her phone with trembling hands. A friend was asking if she was going to the amusement park. She bit her lower lip and replied, "Not going. Who cares about the amusement park now that Wu Chun reached 4th layer?" Next day, I woke up an hour early. 4th layer. Everything felt 2 points stronger. I processed 10 stalks of luminous grass and planted them on the balcony, then headed to school. On the way, I planned how to fleece cultivation resources from Zhuang Chunya. That condensing essence pill had shown me what advanced resources could do. If I'd had enough, I wouldn't have waited until last night to break through. In the classroom, Lu Yi was already there, fiddling with something at Zhuang Chunya's desk. I smacked him on the butt. He jumped like a startled rabbit, and a piece of paper fluttered from his hand. "Dear Chunya, I have loved you deeply since the first time I saw you. I could do anything for you." I looked at Lu Yi. Lu Yi looked at me. The silence was deafening. He snatched the letter and stuffed it in his backpack. I knew that somewhere in the world, a 3-bedroom apartment was rising into existence. The dignified, rich second generation was a hopeless romantic. I asked if he happened to have another condensing essence pill today. He stared at my punchable face, held it in, then squeaked that yes, how did I know, and ran to get it. 1 minute later, I had today's pill. If only this could be a daily login reward. Lu Yi sat down, glancing between me and Zhuang Chunya's seat, growing restless. An idea hit me. Love letter. Cultivation resources. I narrowed my eyes like a fox and sat beside him with an innocent smile. My conscience was condemning me for taking his pills for free. I offered to write his love letter. My writing skills were decent, and I was willing to serve like a dog or horse. Lu Yi stared at me like I just asked to borrow his firstborn. Didn't we agree to pretend nothing happened? How could I be so brazen after taking the benefits? I patted his shoulder and told him not to misunderstand. I genuinely wanted to do something for him, Nothing to do with any condensing essence pill. I pulled a pill refinement workbook from his desk, flipped to the back, and started writing. A love letter needed to be special and sincere. Something like "I like you the first time I saw you" is too old-fashioned, too perfunctory. Before my transmigration, I'd earned pocket money in high school with this skill. Fooling a silly, rich second generation shouldn't be a problem. His mung bean eyes doubled in size. I often stay in the corner of a noisy classroom, my gaze passing through books and paper, quietly falling upon you. Your smile reminds me of flower branches blooming in early spring. His body jolted. Excitement erupted in his eyes. This was far better than his own attempt. He probably thought he could taste Zhuang Chunya's lips tonight with this. He beamed, called me talented, and handed me 2,000 spirit coins. All he had on him. I pocketed them and told him to erase what I wrote after copying. He was deeply moved. In his heart, he was already regretting not discovering me as a soulmate 3 years ago. 10 minutes later, he slipped the letter into Zhuang Chunya's desk. He looked back at me. I nodded heavily and gave a thumbs up. He walked back looking like a soldier who just finished planting explosives. Pei Ran sat down and asked why I was so early. I told him straight-faced that Zhuang Chunya and Lu Yi were together now. Give up. He was nailed to his seat, lips trembling. I prepared to comfort him. Then he casually said he didn't like Zhuang Chunya anymore anyway, and asked what I thought of Yufinfin from the next class. She wasn't as tall, but she had a broad mind. He patted my shoulder like a wise old father, and said it was hard to find a toad with 2 legs, but girls with 2 legs were everywhere. Don't be sad. I sat there wondering who was comforting whom. High school feelings were like tornadoes. He'd already cast his unrequited love, which he'd never even possessed, to the back of his mind. He was shaking his head while reading, and what he was chanting was definitely not talisman key points. The system triggered another mission. Practice diligently for at least 4 hours every day for 7 consecutive days. Reward: master basic talismans to perfection. I just needed to practice 8 hours a day for a week, and talismans were mine. The college entrance exam had 5 subjects worth 750 total. Combat power 300, general knowledge 150, 3 subsidiary subjects at 100 each. Our classes 3 were pill refinement, artifact refining, and talisman. My talisman grades were barely passing. With the system reward, raising my total by 30 points was easy. I opened the talisman textbook and started memorizing. Heaven and earth are mysterious and yellow. Guide chi to return and store. Then Pei Rance singing invaded my mind like magic. Hand in hand, walk with me. 10,000 chi, 10,000 chi. Return to the sect, hand in hand, walk with me. I was shocked at what I just read. My eyes pinned onto the back of Pei Rance's head like lightning. He was disturbing my Tao heart. D. A scream almost escaped from the back row by the window, but got swallowed by the ocean of reading voices. Pei Ran clutched the back of his head and glared at me like a resentful wife, his eye sockets showing a perfectly timed touch of redness. I had no time for him because Zhuang Chunya had just arrived. She was wearing a spaghetti-strap dress, fair collarbones. The full chest wrapped by black fabric had a strong visual impact. The reading sound in class diminished by 3 parts. I held my talisman textbook up to block Pei Rance's gaze while tracking Zhuang Chunya's movements. Not because of her appearance. I was waiting to see when she'd find that love letter. She sat down, pulled out her exercise book, stuffed the textbook into the desk. Her hands paused. She'd touched something inside. She raised her chin toward Lu Ye's direction, and Lu Yi cast a gaze full of love from across the room. She smiled beautifully, pulled out her hand, and lowered her head to read. Now, I stood up with a whoosh and shouted at Pei Ran, very angrily, to stop singing, that he was affecting my memorization. I grabbed my textbook, pushed back my chair, and strode it out with a furious look. Classmates turned to stare at Pei Ran. He sat there with a whole row of question marks on his forehead. As I passed Zhuang Chunya, I accidentally bumped her elbow. She didn't hold steady, and the love letter slipped from under the desk and drifted to the floor. I bent down to pick it up. Sorry, and what is this? Her expression changed. She snatched it from me and stuffed it into the pill refinement exercise book on her desk, slapped it shut, and said it was just her diary. I gave her an I understand look and walked out. Soon my reading voice echoed from the corridor. The morning reading lasted 45 minutes. The system showed about 1/10 of today's 4 hours done. As long as I attended every class seriously, I'd complete the task. When I returned to my seat, Pei Ran was waiting with a face full of indignation. But before he could denounce me for betraying the revolution, Zhuang Chunya walked over. Under Pei Ran's gaze, which shifted from anger to shock to heartbreak, she said softly that she had something to tell me. Pei Ran slapped his chest and pointed at me trembling, acting like he was spitting blood. His whole face screamed traitor. I went with Zhuang Chunya to the stairwell. She stomped her foot and said it was all my fault. I had to help her get the love letter back. I rubbed my chin and played dumb. What love letter? She was ashamed and annoyed. Usually boys did everything for her, but I was the only person who'd stumbled on her situation with Lu Yi, so she suppressed her irritation. The love letter had been sent to the teacher's office with the homework. If Zhao Bingxing saw it, she'd be criticized. Before, she could pin the blame on whoever wrote it and maintain her pure class belle persona. But this one was from Lu Yi. She couldn't shift the blame. Her persona wouldn't hold. She needed me to steal it back before Zhao saw it. I raised my hands innocently and said it was Pei Ran's fault I bumped her. Why not send Pei Ran? Only I knew about this, so it had to be me. Her patience was exhausted, face flushed, eyes misting. She was about to cry. She was good at using that trick. I smiled slightly. She felt something cold in the smile, something that creeped her out. I asked slowly if she was asking for my help to protect her own interests, something only I could handle. Then it was reasonable for me to ask for compensation. She stared at me in disbelief. First time a boy had ever actively asked her for something. She said it was clearly my fault. I should make up for my mistake. I smiled coldly. The letter was taken away because she forgot to remove it from the exercise book, not because I bumped her. The transitivity of events couldn't represent karma. She was stunned, doubt in her eyes. I glanced at the class time and said if she couldn't decide, I was going back. I turned to leave without giving her time to think. She collapsed. Don't go, she promised. The class monitor gave me a condensing essence pill yesterday. She'd give me one too. Fair now, right? I stopped. 5 seconds later, I looked back. I grinned, flawless white teeth. Sorry, one pill was last night's price. Now she needed to pay more. Zhuang Chunya's eyes widened beyond shock into dullness. I'd accidentally crashed her system. I explained. The class monitor gave me a pill, and I kept a secret. That was the price of silence. But now I had to keep the secret and steal the letter from the head teacher's office. The work had increased, so she should pay more. She stared blankly, feeling it made sense but still feeling cheated. She said she was a girl. Shouldn't I let her off? I was already turning away. The look I gave her made her feel like something disgusting. Something she'd insisted on collapsed inside her. She chased after me and grabbed my arm. Fine, she'd pay more. Pei Ran, coming back from the bathroom, saw Zhuang Chunya grabbing my arm. He felt like a stone man hit by a flash, eyes purple with jealousy. Take this. She bit her lower lip, opened her phone with a pained expression, and sent me a message. I asked if it was as valuable as a condensing essence pill. She glared and said I was ignorant. An anonymous monthly card for the Chintzy Cultivation Club. One card sold for tens of thousands on the market. Target number 2, 1 out of 1. Task completed. The system went into apocalypse mode. Everyone was meat on the chopping block, seize opportunities ruthlessly. I'd harden my heart and snatch their opportunities. Without those two surely wouldn't live long. How sad. I told the system to thank itself. It was the system that forced me into this. I'd only taken a tiny fraction. The system said this was a sacrifice for great things. Only moving forward reached perfection. I rolled my eyes. The reward, myriad things sensing chapter, had been issued. Zhuang Chunya grabbed my arm with both hands, looked up with teary eyes. I collected my thoughts and asked how chintzy club cultivation rooms compare to school. She breathed with relief. Similar to the school's advanced rooms. The school's advanced rooms were only for the top 10. A transparent person like me had zero chance. With high spiritual chi plus my absorption efficiency plus the myriad things sensing chapter, my limit was definitely beyond fourth layer. I said since student Zhuang was so sincere, I'd take on the matter. Headed straight for the head teacher's office. Zhao Bingxing wasn't there. He was one of only 3 Ningmai middle stage teachers besides the principal and the only intermediate alchemist. At this moment, he was in a meeting in the principal's office. Principal Yuan Jinsong stood by the window, graying temples, looked like a Taoist immortal, posture straight as pine. He asked Zhao about a student named Wu Chun. Zhao was startled. In his impression, I was still a third layer, no university qualifications. For the principal to name me meant rules violated. Yuan Jinsong said, I'd pulled 10 stalks of luminous grass last night. Zhao had an I knew it expression. Then the principal dropped the interesting part. I'd broken through to fourth layer right after pulling grass. He tapped the glass with a bony finger, amused. Zhao was startled, then happy, then straightened up. Papers from 300 years ago proved luminous grass useless for cultivation. The principal said I'd be at Zhao's office in 1 minute and 28 seconds. Zhao remembered something. Inspector Shun was in his office. He was going to run into me. Zhao sighed. I was mostly reliable, but sometimes more abstract than anyone. He hoped Inspector Shun wouldn't get strange impressions of the school. I had no idea I was being gossiped about. Stood at the door, cleared my throat, yelled report. No response. If it were Pei Ran, he might have left, but I was on a mission. Registration and 2,000 spirit coins. No one could stop me from making money. I twisted the doorknob. Morning sun through the south-facing window, white curtains fluttering. Standing under the wavy curtains, facing the morning sun, was a man. A large, dark green umbrella rested by his feet. The office door was open, so I walked in. Behind the desk stood this guy in a public security bureau uniform, police superintendent badge on his shoulder. In my past life, that would have been like a captain rank. Dude had sword eyebrows, star eyes, the whole handsome cop thing going on, except his eyes were way too gentle for the job. Like a clear lake or whatever. He should have been intimidating, but instead he gave off vibes of someone who rescues kittens on weekends. He introduced himself as Shun Xiangchen and said my teacher was temporarily away. I nodded, walked straight past him to the desk, and started flipping through the newly submitted pill refinement homework like I owned the place. I asked him if he'd eaten breakfast, where he was from, how many people in his family, the whole polite small talk routine, while simultaneously stealing a love letter out of Zhuang Chunya's exercise book. He answered that he was local, only one left in his family, already eaten. I told him what a pity it was that he was an orphan. The man went silent. I folded the love letter in half and stuffed it in my pocket. Good, nobody noticed. He asked what I was taking and cited some law about not taking things without permission. I told him I forgot he was there. A vein popped on the side of his head because we had been talking the entire time. Then I asked him if he had ever loved anyone in his life. The man's brain visibly short-circuited. I told him middle-aged people wouldn't understand young love, and we had nothing to discuss. My fist hardened. I was feeling very powerful. Then I noticed this absolutely massive green umbrella by his feet. The thing was almost as tall as his legs. The canopy had this weird, glossy coating on it. I really want to touch it. I pointed at it and asked if I could. Now I think Xin Xiangxin decided to let me learn a lesson about the dangers of the world because I had been acting so bizarre. He told me I could touch it, but absolutely should not try to open it. He didn't finish that sentence. I had already popped it open. Dark green, canopy blotting out the sky. Beautiful piece of equipment. The handle was some unknown wood, smooth and cool. All the sunlight got blocked and the temperature dropped instantly. Good umbrella, 10 out of 10. Xin Xiangxin's hands clenched behind his back. His pupils were doing gymnastics. He asked if I felt uncomfortable anywhere. I rested the umbrella on my shoulder and told him not at all. The man went completely quiet because apparently random high school students are not supposed to be able to touch his umbrella without suffering. Then Zhao Bingxing walked in, saw me with an open umbrella indoors, and nearly had a stroke. He yelled about not growing taller. I told him I was already 1.84 meters. He told me to put it down. I put it down. He apologized to Shin Xiangshan on my behalf, saying I was unpromising. Shin Xiangshan said I was very interesting, and I could tell he was choosing his words carefully. I stood up straight and announced I had reached the 4th layer of qi refining and wanted to register for the college entrance examination. Zhao Bingxing ran a full check anyway. 10 minutes later, he confirmed it and nearly started humming. Then he reminded me that 4th layer just qualified me to take the exam. The road was still long, and I should aim for a decent second-tier university if I worked hard. I sighed and asked Shun Xiangshan if the Public Security Bureau was hiring. Maybe with our relationship, I could skip the exam entirely. Zhao Bingsheng flicked my forehead and asked what relationship I had with Inspector Shun. But then Shun Xiangshan said if I really failed the exam, I could come find him and he would help me figure something out. Zhao Bingsheng looked shocked. Apparently this man was going to be running the whole bureau in a few years. One word from him, and I was set. I immediately cupped my hands and told Shin Xiangshan to accept my bow as my adoptive father. Both men went silent. Zhao Bingsheng rubbed his forehead and changed the subject. He asked if I had snuck out and plucked the school's luminous grass last night, that I looked Zhao Bingsheng dead in the eye and chose not to lie. I admitted I pulled the luminous grass, but said I had a compelling reason. He and Shin Xiangshan exchanged a look. Zhao Bingsheng told me to let him hear it. I sighed, tilted my head back, covered my face with my arm. When I lowered it, my eyes were red. Father passed away early. Mother raised my sister and me alone. Yesterday was the anniversary of my father's death. After cultivation class, sorrow welled up, and I miss my father so very, very much. Zhao Bingsheng had been preparing to crush whatever abstract nonsense I was about to say. He was not prepared for the dead father angle. The dead are to be respected above all else. He was stuck, but then I kept going. Fate was cruel. Last night was overcast. Truly heartbreaking. He asked what missing my father had to do with it being overcast. I grabbed my collar, gritted my teeth, looked devastated. On an overcast night, there is no moon. The moon symbolizes reunion. No moon means I can never reunite with my father in this life. A youth's emotional breakdown often happens in just a split second. Zhao Bingsheng turned to stone. I continued. Just as I was about to collapse, I remembered the luminous grass contains a faint essence of the moon. Picking a few stalks and offering them up counted as reuniting with my father. Sure, it was wrong to pick the grass, but it saved a youth on the verge of a breakdown and made my Tao heart even more stable, which allowed me to break through to the 4th layer of qi, refining in a heartwarming reunion. So were these few stalks worth it or not? Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It was a massively profitable investment. Zhao Bingsheng took a long time to recover. He figured this breakthrough really was related to the luminous grass, just in the most abstract way possible. He told me to collect seedlings from logistics after school and replant them. Matter closed. He sent me the college entrance exam registration link. I filled it out, he checked it, submitted it. The 2,000 spirit coin subsidy would hit my account once it processed. His tone softened. He asked if that would cover next month's cultivation resources. He genuinely cared. I nodded. He patted my shoulder and told me to cultivate well. Then Shin Xiangshan spoke up. He said if I had difficulties with cultivation resources, he could sponsor me until the exam. Zhao Bingsheng was startled. Shun Xiangshan smiled and said it was his private capacity, nothing to do with the bureau. Apparently Inspector Shun had taken a real liking to me. 8 months until the exam. With proper resources, I might break through another realm or two. Then he heard my voice. I thanked Shin Xiangshan, but said I could handle this myself. Zhao Bingsheng wanted to push me to accept, but something in my eyes stopped him. First time he had seen me look this serious. I didn't know why Shin Xiangshan was being so generous, but I didn't want to owe that kind of favor. I still had principles. Relying on a rich woman is fine. A rich man is out of the question. I headed back to class. Shin Xiangshan told Zhao Bingsheng the students at 3rd middle school were not bad. Zhao Bingsheng was internally doing cartwheels, but barely managed to suggest they attend to business instead. Back in my seat, I stuffed the love letter away. Li Perrin spun around like a top. I cut him off before he started. No relationship with Zhuang Chuanya. Didn't like her. Approached her purely for business. Go ahead. He leaned in and asked if I had reached the fourth layer of qi refining. I raised my eyebrows. I thought he was going to ask about Zhuang Chuanya. He said he didn't care about her anymore. Compared to her, my fourth layer was way more important. This guy had already broken through to fourth layer over the summer. Days ago, he was freaking out about a class gap. Now I could apply too. I patted his shoulder. Good son, Daddy didn't dote on you for nothing. He said he already booked a table for 2 at Hadaleo in my name. I knew it, but whatever. When he had his breakthrough over the summer, I stole his pocket money to treat him and got my butt beaten swollen by my father. A return meal was fair. Then Wang Lin, Zhuang Chunya's desk mate, suddenly stood up. She had seen the campus network update. She looked at me in disbelief and announced I had broken through to the fourth layer of qi refining. The whole class went silent. Every eye landed on me. The campus network blasted out an announcement the second I hit the fourth level of qi refining. You know those old-school MMO server messages that pop up when someone does something cool? Exactly like that, except this one came with actual cash. 2,000 spirit coins landed in my account as a breakthrough subsidy. Combined with my savings, I was sitting on over 5,000 spirit coins. That was more than Lin Wan made in an entire month. And no, that's not an exaggeration. In this world, cultivators and regular people earn money like they're running completely different operating systems. The gap is absurd. My classmates were a mixed bag when the announcement hit. Some stayed cool, some looked genuinely surprised, and a few were straight up ugly sobbing into their hands. 27 out of 48 students in our class had now registered for the college entrance exam. I was number 27. The remaining 21 had basically zero hope left, and you could feel the resentment radiating off the ones who thought I'd fail right alongside them. Those people were not having a good time. Louis was the first to stand up and applaud. Admitted I'd surprised him again, welcomed me into the fourth level club with a big smile. I did the whole class Tanzan bow routine, credited him for my success, and the man was so delighted he immediately offered to buy me lunch. Anywhere I wanted. Free food. The class monitor's obsession with his own image was my wallet's best friend, and honestly the man cared so much about looking generous that I never had to pay for anything around him. Li Peiran kept staring at me like I'd sprouted a second head overnight. Something about me had changed, and he couldn't figure out what. Even Zhuang Chunyao was sneaking glances from behind her textbook, probably feeling insecure about that cultivation monthly card she'd handed me. She didn't want me improving. That made me feel a little bad, but not bad enough to stop. Teacher Ian Ruman walked in for talisman class, gave me a nod, and told me to work hard and not waste this opportunity. For once I actually took the advice. I spent the next 2 classes in complete silence. Didn't say a single word to Li Peiran, which scared him so badly he wanted to drag me to the infirmary. The man genuinely thought studying meant I'd gone mad from cultivation. It took serious convincing to explain. I just wanted to learn. Combat class was the real highlight, though. 5 minutes, no external tools. Just dump everything you've got into a testing machine and see what number comes up. I've been scoring 67 before the breakthrough. This time I combined the wind walk technique with the final move of the slanting wind sword technique, the one called No Need to Return, and scored 103 points. That was intermediate 4th level dummy territory. The improvement was massive, and I was grinning like I'd won the lottery. At lunch, Liu Yi and I bonded over seafood, while everyone else wondered what was going on between us. I kept my head down through the afternoon classes, actually studying for once. Then, finally, when school ended, the system notification popped up. 7 consecutive days of diligent practice, 4 hours minimum each day. Task complete. I let out a huge breath, dragged Li Peiran to replant some Tongming grass, and we grabbed shared flying swords home. Ate Lin Wan's pork rib soup, shut myself in my bedroom, and summoned the cultivation technique the system had promised me. The treatise on the interaction of all things hit my brain like a tidal wave. The knowledge was vast and deep, nothing like the 5 grains absorption technique I've been grinding with for years. This was about perceiving the true essence of heaven and earth, guiding spiritual energy instead of brute forcing it. I could already feel the difference just from reading through it. Then I got curious and searched for it on the Spirit Network. My hands started shaking within seconds. Fragments of this technique had been leaked and sold at auction for 800,000 spirit coins. A top student from one of the best schools in the country had been confirmed to be cultivating it. The thing was S-rank, an actual S-rank cultivation technique from the Tianlang sword sect, one of the 6 great sects, and somehow it was sitting in my head for free. I was shaking so hard I could barely sit still. This was the moment everything changed. I did some digging on the Spirit Network, and my heart kept racing. S-rank cultivation techniques hadn't been produced on Blue Star in 500 years. Every single one came from the 6 great sects in the cultivation world. The people who got to practice them were geniuses among geniuses, the kind Linjiang City produced maybe once every 3 or 4 years, and they got shipped off to first-tier cities as kids. Every cultivator who practiced an S-rank technique got job offers from major powers with salaries starting at $1 million a year. The catch was most of them chose to study abroad in the cultivation world after graduation instead of staying on Earth. But that was way above my pay grade right now. Out of 1,000 students worldwide qualified for S-rank techniques, fewer than 100 actually made it to the college entrance exam with one. The techniques were brutally hard to learn and devoured resources like a black hole. The important part was the legal stuff. You had to pass a preliminary exam from the 6 major joint organizations before practicing an S-rank technique legally. Practice one in private, and you'd face consequences, even if you succeeded. Back in the early days of the new calendar, there were no such rules, and people went absolutely feral fighting over technique copies. Tens of thousands died, and the survivors who got the techniques still died from chi deviation. The government and the 6 sects had to step in with strict regulations. Except the Tianlang sword sect was its own special case. These sword maniacs ran their organization like a blade. They participated in making the rules, but if someone actually mastered their technique in private, all they had to do was pay a fine and report to the sect. The other 5 sects objected, and the Tianlang sword sect basically said, "Fine, we'll just pull our university from Blue Star and good luck replacing us." Nobody could argue with that, so they compromised. I checked the fine amount and nearly choked. 100 million spirit coins. I suddenly thought about Inspector Shun and realized I'd rejected the man way too early. Maybe I should go crawl back and see if he'd give me a second chance. But then I remembered the other reward. Proficiency exchange, valid for 2 days. I didn't hesitate. I told the system to swap the treatise on the interaction of all things with the 5 grains absorption technique. 100 million fine or not, in this world strength was everything. The 5 grains technique capped out at high-level chi refining and could never condense meridians. The S-rank technique would get me there naturally if I grinded through it step by step. A high-level chi condensation cultivator made several million a year. Saving up 100 million over a few decades was totally doable, especially with a longer lifespan. The system hummed like a giant bell ringing inside my skull. Every experience and insight from the 5 grains technique got ripped out and replaced with something infinitely purer. If my old spiritual power was a bullet cart, this new stuff was an overclocked Maybach. Same chi refining 4th level, but I felt like I could knock my old self into next week with one punch. My senses went through the roof. I could detect spiritual energy clinging to every surface around me. Books, tables, chairs, tissues. I tapped a wisp of energy onto the book in front of me, and the paper instantly deconstructed in my mind. It wasn't a smooth sheet anymore. It was an infinite layered universe of fibers, each one with thickness and length data pouring into my consciousness like a stream. I could find the exact weak point. With enough precision, I could shred the whole thing with a micron-sized needle. That was the second layer of this technique. The first was absorbing spiritual energy from all things around you. The second was deconstructing and analyzing everything your spiritual energy touched. At higher cultivation levels, you could literally perceive an opponent's weaknesses. In combat, if they weren't on guard, they'd be completely exposed. Then I had an idea. If my new spiritual energy could deconstruct and analyze. Could it also imitate? I pulled up memories of my old 5-grain spiritual energy and used the new stuff to simulate it. Worked like a charm. I could switch back and forth between the two without any mistakes. That meant nobody had to know I was practicing an S-rank technique. The 100 million in pressure just got a whole lot lighter. I logged into the Spirit Network and fired up the Tai Su realm to test my new combat power. The Spirit Network was one of the best things humanity had invented in 500 years. It merged spiritual power with old-world tech to create a virtual realm that was basically the internet, but way more immersive. The Tai Su realm was one of its features, generating a virtual avatar based on your identity and cultivation level. You could fight, trade, make friends, do pretty much anything in a virtual world where privacy was locked down tighter than a vault. The Linglian group running the whole thing had ties to all 6 major sects, and even the federal government couldn't just waltz in and access your data, which meant I could safely use the treatise on the interaction of all things in there without anyone knowing. The second I logged in, the system lost its absolute mind. It detected the high spiritual energy concentration and assumed the Tai Su realm was some kind of secret realm, a rarity in this so-called Dharma-ending age. Then it dropped a mission on me. Build a sect. Construct a power base with at least 300 square meters of building area. The reward was a green title called Sect Leader. I stared at the mission description and nearly laughed out loud. The system had a bug. It genuinely thought this virtual world was a real secret realm, and it wanted me to establish a sect. The federal government had insanely strict requirements and procedures for that. You needed to be at least at the condensation meridian realm just to pass the review. No way a 4th-level chi refining student like me could pull that off. But then a thought hit me like a lightning bolt. Setting up an educational institution in the Tai Su realm needed certification, but nobody cared about registering a homestead. Virtual homes could have custom names, and you could set access permissions however you wanted. If I changed my home from private to public with authorization required, how is that any different from sect? Plenty of real training companies operated out of residential areas in the real world. The system had already mistaken the Tai Su realm for a secret realm, so it shouldn't have any trouble mistaking a homestead for a sect. I decided to test this after checking my combat power first. My virtual home was 100 square meters, basically empty except for a combat testing machine in the corner that had cost me nearly 500 spirit coins, a purchase I'd regretted for months. I went all out with the treatise on the interaction of all things, unleashed the full slanting wind sword technique, and the number that appeared on the screen made my pupil's contract. 168. 168 points. That was equivalent to a 6th-level chi refining dummy. I was at the 4th level using F-rank swordsmanship, and I was hitting like I was 2 levels higher. My old score had been a pathetic 67. In 2 days, I'd jumped by over 100 points. This was what cheating felt like, and it was absolutely glorious. Then I got to work on the sect business. I renamed my homestead Chinzong, changed the permissions to public with authorization required, and checked the listings. There was Chunzong, sitting at 0 attraction points. I still needed 300 square meters total, though. Virtual property in the Tai Su realm was cheap compared to real-world real estate. So I bought 200 more square meters at 10 spirit coins each from the mall and slapped a random template villa on the lot since I knew nothing about architecture. 1 minute later, a brand new 300 square meter villa appeared outside, complete with carved beams and antique charm. A plaque above the main door read Shinzong. The attraction score shot up to 3 points. The system tried to verify the data, failed, tried again, failed again, and then just gave up entirely. It muttered something about me being exceptionally gifted and capable of accomplishing feats ordinary people couldn't. How else would we revitalize the immortal path in this Dharma-ending age? The yellow heaven is dead. The Chun sect shall rise. I had no words for that level of giving up, but it awarded me the green title Sect Leader, and I wasn't about to complain. The title gave me increased respect and goodwill from people around me, better success rate when recruiting disciples, and the big one, a buff called Sect Leader's Blessing. I could pick one cultivation technique as my sect signature move, and while I was cultivating it, my comprehension would increase tenfold. The sect leader title looked great on paper. Increased intimidation for dealing with troublemakers, like Li Peiran. Better favorability for scamming free meals. And the disciple recruitment boost confirmed the system really wanted me building my own sect. But what I cared about most was the sect leader's blessing. I summoned the system interface, which now had a new slot for equipped titles. I locked the sect leader title in and set the treatise on the interaction of all things as my sect signature technique. 1 year cooldown before I could switch, which was fair. A permanent tenfold comprehension boost would have been broken even for a green title. The moment it activated, I started cultivating. Everything changed. The obscure scriptures that had been crammed into my head before now melted like ice in sunlight, revealing the simple truth underneath. Every object around me was offering its own faint spiritual energy, and together with the energy in the air, it all flowed into my body. The treatise began running through my body for the first time under my own will, slow and steady like an old ox plowing a new field. Then the leftover medicinal power from yesterday's chi condensation pill kicked in. White smoke started rising from the top of my head. The old ox got a second wind and picked up speed. By morning, I'd taken a massive step forward in the 4th level of chi refining. 10 times comprehension plus an S-rank technique plus a pill was a ridiculous combination. The system chimed in with another quest. Collect 100 drops of residual spiritual vein source liquid. The reward was 10 low-grade natural spirit stones. My eyes went wide. Natural spirit stones were investment-grade collectibles worth over 1,000 spirit coins per gram. 10 of them would be worth a fortune. I searched the spirit network for any mention of spiritual vein source liquid. Nothing. Not a single entry. The system's mission descriptions were as useless as ever. I headed out for the weekend. Lin Roachuan was sprawled on the couch, scrolling her phone, barefaced and looking unfairly pretty for a Saturday morning. She didn't even look at me. I asked if she'd prepared for the amusement park trip next week, and she snapped that she'd handle it herself. She was secretly planning not to go, but didn't want to tell me. I just smiled and grabbed 2 steamed buns on my way out. On the shared flying sword over to the Dawn Cultivation Center, I checked every fountain, milk tea shop, and coffee shop I passed. Nothing triggered the system. I had to handle the monthly card first anyway. The Dawn Cultivation Club was one of the most popular high-end cultivation rooms in Linjiang City. First time I'd ever stepped into a place this fancy, but having lived 2 lives kept me from looking too starstruck. The spiritual energy concentration inside was noticeably higher. The 2 receptionists at the front desk were chatting until they saw me. Their eyes widened, and they immediately straightened up, looking almost nervous. I was still wearing the sect leader title. The intimidation buff was making 2 grown women act like I was a CEO instead of a high school student. Neither dared look me in the eye. They activated my monthly card, and one offered to give me a tour. She found me gentle and refined, apparently, which was definitely the title talking. She showed me the 3 cultivation areas and the lounge. In the lounge, I caught a glimpse of a girl with a high ponytail in sportswear. She noticed me and looked surprised. I picked cultivation room 8848 and settled in. The energy concentration was way better than my bedroom. I cultivated for 2 hours until my meridians started aching, practiced some sword forms, showered, and headed out. That's when I heard a familiar voice calling my name. A girl came sprinting toward me, black ponytail swinging, wearing tight jeans and a white t-shirt with a cartoon pet on it. Bright eyes, flushed face, 2 cute tiger teeth when she grinned. Xia Chensi. We'd been childhood friends before her parents divorced, and she moved away. We'd lost touch over the years. Then it hit me. Xia Chensi and the Dawn Cultivation Club. Her dad must have built this whole thing. I asked if it was really her family business, and she leaned in and whispered that yes, it was her dad, though he had partners. It hurt knowing my mud-playing buddy had become a rich girl while I was still grinding for spirit coins. The system triggered another quest. Recruit Xia Chensi as a disciple. She had superior talent. The reward was the first form of the cloud sword technique. I looked her up and down, and my gaze landed on the empty water bottle in her hand. The system pinged again. Residual spiritual essence from a spiritual vein detected. Please collect immediately. I stared at the bottle, then at Xia Chensi, then back at the bottle. I returned the shared flying sword at the entrance of the Dawn Cultivation Club and squinted up at the building in front of me. On the way over, I checked every fountain, milk tea shop, and coffee shop within eyesight, hoping the system would ping about the spiritual vein source liquid. Nothing. Not a single trigger. First things first, though. The Dawn Cultivation Club was one of the hottest high-end paid cultivation rooms in Linjiang City. Top chi refining cultivators hung out here to exchange techniques, and if one of them took a liking to you, it could change your entire trajectory. First time I'd ever set foot somewhere this upscale, but having lived 2 lives kept me from gawking like a tourist. The spiritual energy hit me the moment I walked through the door. The concentration was noticeably higher than anywhere I'd been, and my steps felt lighter. The 2 receptionists at the front desk were giggling to themselves until they spotted me. Their eyes went wide, they straightened up, and suddenly they looked almost nervous. I realized I still had the sect leader title equipped. The intimidation buff was turning me into some kind of imposing presence, and neither of them could even meet my eyes. After activating Zhuang Chunya's monthly card, I asked for a tour of the facility. The receptionist seemed puzzled by why she felt so deferential to a high school student, but she didn't seem to mind. She actually found me gentle and refined, which was definitely the title doing its thing. If it were any other guy, she probably wouldn't have agreed to walk around in heels, but the title made it feel fine. She showed me everything. 3 cultivation areas for different realms, a lounge, and a shopping section. In a lounge corner, I spotted a girl with a high ponytail, tight sportswear showing off a perfect figure, drinking water with one hand on her hip. People kept glancing at her, but she was totally unbothered. She caught sight of me out of the corner of her eye and looked genuinely startled. The receptionist dropped me off at the Chi refining cultivation rooms with a wink and a cheerful blessing. 80 meditation rooms total, only about a dozen available. I grabbed room 8848 and got to work. The energy concentration here was leagues above my bedroom at home. Even though the Chi condensation pills effects were mostly used up, this environment more than made up for it. With enough pills and the sect leader title, I could probably reach incredible heights in a year of training here. The monthly card cost 30,000 spirit coins, which meant Zhuang Chunya had seriously undersold its value when she said it was worth a few tens of thousands. 2 hours in, my meridians were screaming in protest. At the Chi refining stage, you couldn't just cultivate nonstop. Both physical and mental strength had limits, so moderation was essential. I wrapped up with some slanting wind sword technique forms and wind walk movement drills, then showered and headed out. I still needed to find that spiritual vein source. Then a voice called out from outside. Clear, cheerful, and weirdly familiar at the same time. I turned around and saw a girl running toward me like the wind. Black ponytail bouncing behind her head, tight jeans that somehow didn't slow her down at all, white t-shirt with a cute pink cartoon pet on the chest, wide bright eyes, flushed cheeks, and 2 little tiger teeth when she grinned. Xia Chensi. She and Li Peiran and I had been childhood friends. Her parents divorced before high school, sold a house in Shanhua community, and she went to live with her dad at a different school. We drifted apart over the years, and I never expected to see her here, of all places. Then the realization hit me like a truck. Xia Chensi, Dawn Cultivation Club. Her dad had to be the one behind this whole operation. I asked if it was really her family business, and she pulled me close and whispered that, yeah, it was her dad, but he had partners. She'd never admit it to anyone else, but since we were basically family, she'd tell me the truth. I wish she hadn't said that. It would have been easier if she'd just treated me like a stranger. The 3 of us used to play in the mud together, and now she was a rich girl while Li Pei ran and I were still knee-deep in it. It hurt. The system triggered a new quest. Recruit Xia Chensi as a disciple because of her superior talent. Missing this chance would cost the sect a crucial development opportunity. The reward was the first form of the Cloud Sword technique. I glanced at her, and my eyes happened to land on the empty Yufu Mountain Spring bottle in her right hand. The system pinged. Residual spiritual essence from a spiritual vein detected. Please collect immediately. I stared at the bottle. What the hell was going on? The system wanted me to collect residual spiritual essence from a spiritual vein, and it was pinging off an empty water bottle. I leaned in for a closer look. A few drops of water clung to the bottle wall. This was what it meant by the source of a spiritual vein. I was speechless. The problem was I'd lingered in front of the bottled water shelf at a convenience store on the way here, and the system hadn't triggered once. What was the difference? Then it hit me. The key word was residual. The system wanted residual liquid, not full bottles. A convenience store only had sealed, complete bottles. None of them qualified. I looked up, and under Xia Chenxi's increasingly confused stare, sprinted to the nearest trash can at full speed. I pulled out 2 Yufu Mountain Spring bottles. One was half full. The other was completely empty, with just a few water droplets on the wall. I picked up the half-full one. Nothing. I picked up the empty one. The system pinged. Residual spiritual essence detected. I was furious. The system's detection logic was ripped straight from a web novel. It was literally nitpicking the word residual. I mentally flipped it off while poking through every interface I could find. At least I knew how to complete the quest now. Then I remembered there was someone standing right next to me, watching the whole thing. Xia Chenxi had seen me dig through a trash can. I turned around stiffly and asked if she believed me if I said I was doing social practice research. She looked at the empty bottle in her hand, then at the empty bottle in mine, and her expression shifted. She walked up, patted me hard on the shoulder, and told me with dead earnest eyes that she was sorry she hadn't realized my financial situation was this bad. She said she admired people who worked hard to get rich, and that I deserved respect. No, I didn't need her admiration. She put her hands on her hips and said she would have given me a free annual membership. But seeing how determined I was to succeed on my own, she realized that thinking was too narrow-minded. It would be an insult to me. I immediately told her no insult at all. Please insult me all you want. She waved it off and said, let's drop the subject. I looked at her with pure despair and said I suddenly really wanted to sing a song. The rain in my heart poured down. She grabbed my arm and told me to come with her. 10 minutes later, we were in the underground parking garage, and a brand new Ling Xiao S480 pulled up in front of us. The thing was bright orange-red, forged from shimmering mithril and star gold, lighter than a feather and stronger than diamond, packed with magic arrays and high-tech spiritual energy products. It cost just over 2 million spirit coins. The driver was a bald, bearded middle-aged man who greeted Xia Chenxi respectfully. The moment I got in, I felt an invisible pressure push me down into the seat. It was like all my secrets were being read. Xia Chenxi quickly told him to stop scaring me. The pressure vanished. She apologized and explained he was Uncle Huang, sent by her dad to protect her. He was a condensation realm expert. I was worried my 5 grains disguise would be exposed, but the S-rank technique held up. Even a condensation realm cultivator couldn't detect anything wrong. Uncle Huang grinned at me and said I was the first boy his young lady had brought into the car. The sect leader title's favorability buff was definitely doing heavy lifting. Xia Chenxi told him to drive and asked if he'd brought the thing. He said it wasn't easy to find, but he'd managed. She turned to me and said seriously that she couldn't give me money directly, but she'd do her best to help. I thought you could have just given me the money directly, but I kept that to myself. The van roared out of the garage and stopped at the entrance of a garbage recycling center. Xia Chenxi stood beside me looking smug. All the trash from her club got transported here. She'd already had them collect all the beverage bottles, but didn't know which ones were more valuable, so I should go pick them out myself. Uncle Huang pulled a large yellow snakeskin bag out of the 2 million coin van and handed it to me solemnly. So that was the mysterious thing that was hard to find. A snakeskin bag. I looked at the luxury van behind me, the bag in my hand, the garbage recycling center in front of me, and Xia Chenxi clenching her fists and telling me she believed in me. The wind blew, and I was hit with an overwhelming sense of absurdity. I thought Li Peiran was the king of abstract behavior, but Xia Chenxi was on another level entirely. On the bright side, she'd saved me from digging through trash cans myself. I walked toward the recycling center with determined steps. She called out that she was coming with me. Uncle Huang watched us walk side by side into the garbage dump. His beard split into a grin as he muttered that I'd rather pick up trash than be a kept man, which showed backbone. And that his young lady was actually willing to pick up trash with me was, in his words, incredible. 2 hours after walking into that garbage recycling center, I walked out looking like a full-blown scavenger. My snakeskin bag was stuffed with empty bottles. My expression was dead, and if my clothes had a few more holes, I would have been auditioning for a documentary. The system only needed the spirit liquid inside the bottles. But Xiaqianxi assumed I was selling the bottles for cash, and it was easier to go along with it than explain. Behind us, the entire staff lined up and waved goodbye. The portly director was bowing so hard, I thought his spine might snap. He called out invitations for Xiaqianxi to return anytime. She smiled, showed off those cute tiger teeth, and told him she would mention his hospitality to her dad. The guy had talked for an hour and a half out of a promised 5 minutes, treated us to tea for 20 more, then led us into a conference room cleaner than a hospital, filled floor to ceiling with disinfected bottles. I walked through like a CEO, inspecting his factory. Every time a bottle triggered a system notification, the staff tossed it into my sack. This was an insult to the concept of garbage scavenging. But the mission was complete. 100 drops collected, and the reward dropped into my repository like a Christmas present. 10 natural low-grade spirit stones. I clicked on one, and my pupil shrank. Each stone weighed 10 grams. 100 grams total. Buyback price was roughly 800 spirit coins per gram. That meant 80,000 spirit coins. 80,000. I had never seen that kind of money. Linwan worked herself ragged for 3 years and never made anything close. I could buy 80 Yuan pills and eat them like candy. Rent the Morning Light Cultivation Club for over 2 months. Things were finally looking up. This felt better than finding the treatise on all things, because that book came with 100 million debt attached. This was clean money. Immediate money. Money that could help Lin Wan and Lin Ruoxuan tonight. Of course, I still needed to keep earning. System rewards were random. I wanted stable cash flow. Xiaqianxi's bright orange Lingxiao sat waiting. Uncle Huang, nearly 2 meters tall with a build like a refrigerator, took my snakeskin bag. It looked like a grocery bag in his hand. He told me he was leaving, rolled down the window, gave me a thumbs up, and said I had potential. I told him taking all sorts of things would only harm him. The car vanished. Xiaqianxi turned to me, stood on her tiptoes, and flashed a smile brighter than the actual sun. I wanted to drag Zhuang Chunyao over and show her what real sunshine looked like. She asked if I wanted to grab a meal. I said it was her treat. She agreed without hesitation. I had just gotten spirit stones, but had not cashed them in yet. And besides, it would be wrong not to take advantage of a rich friend now and then. We ended up at Chuan Lama Hot Pot, a 30-year-old joint with great reviews and a price around 200 per person. Xiaqianxi had clearly picked it with care, balancing taste and my wallet. We sat by the window, unpacked our cutlery, and the half-and-half pot arrived, spicy beef tallow on one side, mushroom broth on the other. The aroma was unreal, and the soup was gently bubbling. She asked what level of qi refining I was at. The hot pot restaurant was packed. Steam and chatter everywhere. Even in a world full of cultivators, people still wanted greasy food after a long day. Impurities could be meditated out. Forcing everyone vegetarian would drive people insane. The half-and-half pot was bubbling, and the aroma was unreal. I told her I had just reached the 4th level of qi refining, so university should not be a problem. Then I asked about her. She tucked her hair behind her ear and looked everywhere except at me. I figured she had not broken through to level 4. Even with all that money, some people hit a wall. I picked up my water glass and told her it was fine. Her dad was loaded. She could live, well, even as an ordinary person. She immediately denied it. Said she had actually just broken through to the 9th level of qi refining a couple days ago. I nearly spat my water across the table. Choked instead, turned bright red. Qi refining level 9? The system had rated her talent as top-notch, but hearing it out loud was different. How does someone manage to be both filthy rich and absurdly talented? Once the shock wore off, I was genuinely happy for her. She had a high chance of condensing her meridians, which meant another connection to a future meridian condensing cultivator. Pure ábside. The dishes arrived. I grabbed a thin slice of tripe, dipped it in the red broth for 8 seconds, dropped it into her oil dish, told her to toast me with it. She took a bite, and her eyes lit up. I told her to push for the 10th level and pass the 6th rank exam. She stuck out her tongue from the spice, fanned her mouth, and said she was afraid of hardship, unless I came with her to the top 6 universities' entrance exam. Having a buddy might make it less painful. When we were kids, I was the leader of our trio. She probably still felt some leftover security from those days. I told her she was kidding. I was at level 4. The top 6 did not accept people based on friendship and vibes. She gave me a look that said she did not care. She just believed in me. Maybe a miracle would happen. Being trusted felt good, but I was pragmatic. I said I would not aim for the top 6. If she just wanted a cultivation partner, though, I would go to her family center for 29 days. That monthly pass was expensive, and I was not wasting a day. Her eyes lit up. She said she would go every day after school. It did not matter if she was at first middle or I was at third. If you had a better place to cultivate at night, you were not stuck in the schoolroom. We kept eating. No awkwardness at all. She was still the same girl who used to follow me around and look up to me. Except she used to call me Brother Wu Chun, and now it was Little Wu. That gave me an idea. Could I recruit her into the Chun sect and knock out a system task at the same time? Felt like a real possibility. But how exactly did you recruit a disciple? I asked her to log into the Void Realm and visit my homestead. Small favor. She agreed without hesitation. The system pinged. Recruiting Xia Chensi in progress. 20 out of 100. Just agreeing to visit bumped the bar. We logged in. She stared at my 300 square meter house and called the name Chinzong cringeworthy. Inside, the first floor had nothing but a combat power testing machine. Empty as a freshly delivered apartment. She asked if I wanted her to punch it. I was waiting for the system. Nothing came. Typical. I had to figure it out myself. What counted as recruiting a disciple? The roster. Once you were registered, you were a member. Did the homestead have something similar? Yes. The family member list. Progress jumped to 50 out of 100 based on the system's habit of taking every word literally. Adding Xiachensi to the family member list was probably the right track. The problem was the status. I looked at the options. Parents, pass. Children, pass. Brothers and sisters, worth considering. Spouse, not happening. Partner, also not happening. Why both? Spouse required a marriage certificate. Partner did not need proof and was not restricted by gender. Modern edition for people who wanted commitment without paperwork. I needed neither. I picked siblings. The system asked me to scan a household registration booklet. Where was I supposed to get one? Then why not give me a friend option? This was just cruel. I reported a bug. Customer service responded with their usual cheerful uselessness. Family members got home administrator privileges automatically. Friends were not family. I argued I just wanted to give a friend a key. They said I needed to raise my home's charm value to 100. My current charm value was 3. The simplest way to reach 100 was to recharge 100,000 spirit coins. They might as well have just robbed me. The Void Realm was a shameless business. Xiao Chensi watched my face cycle through sunny, stormy, and full psychotic break. I took a deep breath and asked if she could be my partner for a couple of days. Her brain short-circuited. A blush crawled from her neck to her ears. She stammered. This carefree girl was completely derailed by my zero-warning ask. I threw my hands up and explained. The Void Realm partner, for home decoration. Family members listed as partner could be added without proof. She was a friend. Misunderstandings were a bad look. She circled me twice, studying me like a puzzle. The system warned that prodigies were extremely shrewd. I wanted to tell it to get lost, since it caused this mess. Then she snapped her fingers. She figured it out. I wanted to play house like when we were kids. I had to call Lee Peiran over and make him the son again. I looked at her excited face and confirmed it without hesitation. Lee Peiran was indeed my son, no mistake there. She retorted that of course she would play, straightened her neck, and refused to be outdone. We bickered back and forth like two idiots, escalating over nothing. I sent the partner invitation with a raised eyebrow, the implication clear. She accepted with a raised eyebrow of her own, which basically meant, so what if I did? The system confirmed the addition. Then it played wedding music. Confetti rained from the sky. Flowers stuck to our hair. The system announced this was our shared home, in poverty or wealth, sickness or health, and we should grow old together. The music faded. Silence. Both spouse and partner slots were locked. Had to unbind before changing. They did not tell me it would be this awkward. This was really embarrassing. We were going to have to carve out a 3-bedroom apartment from scratch in this thing. The system pinged. Mission complete. It praised me for staying calm under a prodigy's suspicion. The reward was the first move of the sword technique in the clouds. My shoulders trembled. I scratched my head and told Xia Chenxi we were not kids anymore, and this felt too childish. Maybe we should cancel. She stared at me. I laughed nervously and reached for the cancel button. She told me to stay away. I said, ah. She punched me. My body flew into the air, spun 3,600 degrees, and slammed into the combat power testing machine. The score read 288.10 minutes later. I was sitting against the wall, clutching my chest, staring at Xia Chenxi with pure resentment. I asked if she was trying to kill me. She pouted, looked a little sorry, and snorted. Said it was my fault for playing her. Besides, this was the Void Realm. I cannot die here. Pain, unfortunately, was not optional. I squinted at the testing machine. 288. That was within the 10th level of chi refining range. But her punch scoring that high meant she had poured enough resentment into it to fight above her weight class. Not unusual for a genius with a good technique. She should have no trouble getting a perfect 300 on the combat power exam. She might even hit 300 because that was the maximum, not her limit. I was a little jealous. She told me seriously that we were partners in the Void Realm, but it was just a game, not a real relationship. Do not actually fall for her. Girl, very confident. I told her I could guarantee I would not fall in love. She needed to watch out for my charm. She rolled her eyes, raised her fist, and said whoever liked the other first was a puppy and had to bark 3 times in front of Li Peiran. I spread my hands. No problem. I guaranteed I would win. Somewhere on the Spirit Network, Li Peiran sneezed during a game and wondered who was slandering him. We left the Void Realm, finished eating, and paid. Xia Chenxi wanted to go shopping, but got a phone call, and her mood dropped. Her dad was urging her home. I asked if anything was wrong. She shook her head, forced a smile, and said nothing could go wrong when life was this good. She left skipping in an S-curve, then spun around, stood on her tiptoes, waved, and told me she was very happy today. I watched her disappear. Something was on her mind, but I did not ask. What would asking accomplish? I was a broke teenager. If she wanted to talk, she would. I went to a spirit stone jewelry shop. Buyback price was 807 per gram. I sold 2 stones, 20 grams total. 16,140 spirit coins hit my account. Balance now nearly 20,000. I had never been this rich. My back straightened on its own. The shop manager said the stones were good quality and to come back if I had more. I nodded without committing. Next, I bought a thin gold bracelet for a little over 3,000 spirit coins. For Lin Wan, years of hard work could not be repaid with a bracelet, but it was a start. I was afraid she would fuss if I bought something too expensive. Then a stationery store. Brand new backpack for $5.99. Lin Roachuan had been using my old, ugly backpack for 3 years without complaint. She was heading to the amusement park next week and needed something to carry her stuff. Total spent a little over 4,000. Balance at 15,337. I scanned a shared flying sword and headed home. Uncle Huang had already delivered the snakeskin bag. I stashed the gifts in the bedroom, then took the bottles to the balcony. The system said the spirit liquid should be gathered together. Better safe than sorry. This system had a habit of creating problems if you cut corners. The balcony was tiny. Lin Wan had carved out a vegetable garden and 3 flower pots. I moved everything into the garden so it was all in one place. Using a strip of cotton cloth stuffed into each bottle mouth, I used capillary action to absorb every water droplet, then squeezed the cloth into the garden. Slow work, but I was patient. By the time I finished, Lin Wan and Lin Roachuan were home. Lin Wan saw the bag full of bottles, and her face fell. She immediately thought I had gone out to collect bottles to sell for cash. Guilt flooded her face. She started apologizing, saying it was her fault for being incompetent. In the living room, Lin Roachuan quietly shrank back and stole a glance at the bag. I explained I had not gone to pick up trash. The bottles were a side effect. She was skeptical. Words were not going to cut it. I needed something heavier. I went to the bedroom, grabbed the gold bracelet, and placed it in Lin Wan's hand. Her face cycled through surprise and disbelief. She asked where it came from. Lin Roakshuan dropped her phone, launched off the mattress, and ran over. Eyes locked on the bracelet, sparkling. She told Lin Wan to try it on. Lin Wan shook her head, expression dead serious. Asked where I got the money. We were poor, but we had to follow the law. I told her the money was legitimate. I ran into Xia Chenxi, and her family's company gave me a temporary job. This was salary in advance. Not the whole truth, but not a lie either. If Lin Wan ever asked Xia Chenxi to confirm, she would know how to handle it. Lin Wan said it was still too expensive. I told her I was an adult now and would buy her more and better things in the future. Her eyes reddened. She turned away to wipe her tears, shoulders shaking. Lin Roakshuan held her mom's hand, but kept glancing at me. Every time I noticed, she snapped her head away. I smiled and went back to the bedroom. Then I yelled ouch like I had bumped into something. Lin Wan pushed Lin Roakshuan to check on me. Before the girl could see inside, a brand new backpack dropped from above and landed right in front of her. Latest model. I peeked out, smug grin. Asked what she thought. Would she use it at the amusement park next week? Her mouth hung open. She had decided not to go to the amusement park, and saying that now would be weird. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Mine completely blank. Lin Wan appeared behind her, arm around her shoulder, eyes still red but smiling. Said the backpack was pretty and Xian would look great at the amusement park. Lin Roakshuan could not hold it in. She threw herself into Lin Wan's arms, crying. Then broke free, ran to the living room, grabbed her phone, and messaged her friend Xiaowen that she could go after all. That Wu Chun bought her a new backpack, and she was sending a picture. Later I turned on the TV. Old thing, only local and CCTV channels. I was flipping when I hit the Linjiang station and stopped. A reporter was interviewing two men. One was Shun Xianshan, the police inspector who had tried to keep me. The other had a square face, solid build, suit, and tie, thinning hair. He told the audience the demon incident at the West Slaughterhouse was a wake-up call. Even after 500 years, demons had not given up on invading Earth. Another demon incident. Li Perrin had mentioned one in the South recently. How many had there been? The man said Earth needed to protect itself with its own hands. The cultivation world helped, but this was Earth's home. He praised Inspector Shun and said Linjiang should commend him. Shun Xianshan smiled warmly at the camera and said protecting the city was simply his duty. He was not doing it for recognition. The reporter handed the microphone back and asked the other man, as leader of the Spark team sent to Linjiang, if he had anything else to say. Spark faction. Wang Jihong. This guy was no nobody. The Spark faction was a political organization, not a cultivation sect. For 500 years, Earth and the cultivation world had maintained friendly exchange, but people on Earth had split into three camps. The first camp built the respect for Heaven Alliance. The cultivation world saved Earth and taught everyone to cultivate, so Earth should treat them as saviors. Only by leaning on the cultivation world could Earth develop and wipe out the demons. The Spark faction thought the opposite. Earth needed absolute autonomy. If everyone became subservient to the cultivation world, cultivators would be no different from demons. Some extremists wanted to close the passage between worlds entirely. The two factions have been fighting in government for centuries, with the respect for Heaven Alliance holding a big advantage. The third group was the Rongxin Society. Middle path. Neither full dependence nor full rejection. Scientific cultivation merging both sides. Rumors said their founder and the inventor of the Spirit Network were the same person. Wang Jihong was one of the Spark faction's most active mid to high level members, tens of millions of followers. Basically their spokesperson. Rank of torchbearer. On TV, he said his purpose in Linjiang was to understand recent demon incidents and craft policies to keep ordinary people safe. Only the Spark faction truly stood on Blue Star's side. Final shot, fist over heart, looking solemn. After the interview, Lin Roakshuan was in such a good mood, she actually talked to me first. She asked which faction I preferred. I thought about it, then ruffled her hair. She exploded, jumped up like a stepped-on cat, cheeks puffed, face weirdly flushed, screamed that touching her head would stun her growth. I laughed and pulled my hand back, told her I did not like any of the factions. All I wanted was for my family to be happy. That was more important than anything. That was the truth. Politics always came down to interests no matter how nice people sounded. I just wanted to get stronger, get into a good university, and make enough money for Lin Wan to retire and Lin Roxuan's path to be smoother. If I had to pick a favorite, I would pick our apartment. Unit 2502, Building 13, Shanhua Community. I raised an eyebrow at her and asked if she was not touched. She looked at me like I was a pervert, shuddered, covered her ears, groaned that I was disgusting, then yelled for Mom and fled. In the kitchen, Lin Wan heard everything. Hot oil splashed her hand, but she did not seem to care. Slight smile on her lips. After dinner, I took stock of the day in my room. 2 tasks completed. First reward was 10 low-grade spirit stones. Sold 2, balance over 15,000. I decided to spend 5,000 on cultivation resources next month, 2,000 more than usual. Enough to signal to Zhao Bingsheng that I was working harder without raising questions. With the treatise on all things and the Dawn Cultivation Club pass, my cultivation would improve this month. I needed to avoid spooking him, then transfer money to Lin Wan and buy a new range hood. The old one was noisy and useless. When I earned more, rare herbs for longevity, the remaining spirit coins, and 8 spirit stones, I planned to convert into cultivation resources fast. Spirit stones were great on their own, but my monthly card already provided enough spiritual energy. Better to diversify. This year was critical. Saving money was not the play. I had thought about moving to a bigger place, but 8 spirit stones was nowhere near enough for a house in Linjiang City. Not even close. Then I turned to the second reward. The first move of the sword technique in the clouds. A sword technique, but why only one move? Maybe a chain of tasks, 1 move per completion. The system was getting stingy. I searched the spirit network instead of extracting it. The sword technique in the clouds was from the Tianlang sword sect, a masterpiece among masterpieces. Rank S. I wondered if the system only had S-rank techniques. An S-level technique was probably worth several hundred million. While most kids at 3rd middle practiced Fed-rank garbage, and Zhuangchunya would pay for a B rank, I already had an S rank. Multiple sets. Using cheat codes was pretty amazing. If the system kept rewarding me like this, eventually I would be self-sufficient. No need to beg for resources from anyone. Think of the money saved. I sat there looking smug for a while, then went back to reading about the sword technique in the clouds that I spent way too long searching for info on the cloud sword technique online. Finally tracked down one video, but the quality was so bad it looked filmed through a potato. A swordsman stood on a grassland with his back to the camera. No sword on his back, no sword in his hand. Just stood there. Then a massive beam of light came crashing down from the sky. A flying sword was barely visible inside it. The whole video shook, deafening boom, dust everywhere. When it cleared, the grassland was gone, replaced by a pit over 50 meters wide. An ice blue, flying sword rose out of the hole with 2 dragons carved into it. Video over. That wasn't a sword technique. That was an air-to-ground missile. Since when did sword techniques involve calling down orbital strikes? The slanting wind, I knew, was basic chops and slashes. This was something else entirely. But I had to admit, it was ridiculously cool. A cultivator doesn't move a finger and a flying sword rides down from the clouds. Precision bombing from the sky. The only concern was whether learning it would add another 100 million to my hidden debt. I checked the rules, and it turned out the sword sect didn't care how many techniques you had, only whether you'd broken any by practicing ones above your level. Having a bunch of S-rank techniques just made you look talented. So I told the system to extract the first move. Instantly, this sword technique flooded into my head along with a ton of experience. The Cloud Sword Manual had 9 forms. The first one was called Starfall, pure vertical strike. The flying sword becomes a meteor and drops on your target at insane speed. Simple and devastating. I grabbed my practice sword, sat down with it on my knees, and started working through the fundamentals. Dharma techniques had 4 levels, beginner through perfection. The system seemed to dump me straight into beginner level, which was a nice surprise. My place was way too small to practice, so I headed to the Taishu realm. That's when it hit me. The whole point of the Taishu realm homes probably wasn't social hangouts. It was giving everyone a private, safe space to train. Out on the grassland by my house, I closed my eyes and pictured that swordsman from the video. Inside me, the treatise on the interaction of all things churned like a massive whale, pulling spiritual energy along with it. I snapped my eyes open. Sword shadows were visible in both my pupils. I gave the command, and nothing seemed to happen at ground level. But I knew what was going on 100 meters above my head. A sword shadow broke the sound barrier with a scream, trailing fire as it plummeted straight down. Starfall. The impact threw up a wall of yellow sand. When it settled, there was a circular pit 3 meters wide on the ground. Yeah, that sounds tiny compared to the 50-meter crater in the video, but the guy in the video was probably way past chi condensation. I was at the 4th level of chi refining. 3 meters was already insane for my stage. I dragged out the combat power tester and aimed it at the dummy. 190. That was equivalent to the 7th level of chi refining. I was overcoming 3 levels against ordinary students. Even Xia Chenxi, genius that she was, could only punch 1 level above her own. Was I worth 3 Xia Chenxis? Probably not that simple, but the numbers didn't lie. Then my legs gave out, and I face-planted into the grass. Spiritual energy completely drained. 2 shots was my limit. I was basically Kakashi running out of chakra. I just lay there in a starfish, staring at the fake sky, waiting to recover. The Taishu realm was already repairing the crater in front of me. A breeze brushed my bangs, and in that rare, quiet moment, something clicked. A sword could fall from above, sure, but it could also be swung at any angle. Starfall was basically a smashing attack, but it still needed the same fundamentals as every other sword technique. If I angled the wind just right, wasn't that just the slanting wind sword technique? The realization hit me like a bolt. Right there on the grass, I broke through to the next level with the slanting wind sword technique. Wait, that actually worked. The breakthrough with the slanting wind sword technique caught me off guard, but once I thought about it, it made total sense. The cloud sword technique was S rank. Its understanding of sword fundamentals was light years ahead of the F rank slanting wind. Now that I'd reached beginner level with the cloud sword, my whole grasp of swordsmanship had shifted. Pushing the slanting wind past its previous limit was just a natural consequence. Before this, my wind walk technique was at minor mastery, while the psionic shield and slanting wind were both stuck at beginner. Now the slanting wind jumped straight to major mastery. The key difference was that the cloud sword technique wasn't something I could show off in public. Too conspicuous, too traceable. But the slanting wind sword technique was different. Over 300 students at 3rd middle practiced it. It was the most common sword technique in the school. Within the 3 schools, fewer than 50 people had reached minor mastery with it, and fewer than 10 had major mastery. Nobody had achieved perfection. Until now. I spent the rest of the session combining the improved slanting wind with the 5 grains absorption technique and tested against the combat dummy. 138. 5th level of chi refining equivalent. Without the treatise or the cloud sword, just pure slanting wind at major mastery, I was already surpassing the standard dummy by a full level. I felt a rush I hadn't experienced in a long time. 1 step closer to getting into a decent university. Sunday came around. I transferred 3,000 spirit coins to Lin Wan before heading to the Morning Light Cultivation Club. Xia Chenxi messaged me, saying her dad was taking her to meet someone, so she couldn't make it. I replied that it was fine and swallowed my last chi condensation pill. Another day of cultivation blurred past. The system confirmed my 7-day streak. Even with the sect master title bonus, the pill, and the high concentration cultivation room, I figured it would still take 4 months to hit the 5th level of chi refining with the treatise. An S-rank technique was just that much slower. With the basic 5 grains absorption technique, I could have done it in 2 days. Still, 4 months for a second breakthrough on an S-rank technique was already ridiculous. And if I had enough pills and bath resources, it could be even faster. The school would hand out monthly cultivation resources tomorrow. My share would be small, but every bit helped. I opened the Spirit Network and started browsing. The Na Yuan pill was the basic early stage qi refining supplement, 300 coins each. The school already gave me 5 a month, so I skipped those. The condensing essence pill was the upgrade, great for anything below 5th level. The meridian opening pill was 3,000 each and designed for breaking through to mid-stage qi refining. The minor foundation establishment pill was 8,000 and way out of my league. I stared at the prices and felt my wallet cry. A single foundation establishment pill was nearly 10,000. Even liquidating everything I had, I could only afford 7 or 8. I left the club and found the same shopkeeper from yesterday. Sold him 2 more low-grade spirit stones at 30 coins per gram. That came to 16,800, bringing my total to about 30,000. I ordered 6 meridian opening pills for 18,000. Then 6 sets of medicinal bath materials for another 6,000. The demon cores in those pills had side effects, and the bath stuff was necessary to clean up the damage afterward. My balance dropped to 5,137. 24,000 gone in minutes. Just enough left to scrape by until tomorrow's school distribution. Those supplies should last about 20 days. I was hurting from the spending, but genuinely excited about how much faster I'd cultivate. When I got home, I realized it was September 30th. Anyone who hadn't hit the 4th level of qi refining by today was officially done. No Immortal Tao University for them. I opened the class group chat. Total meltdown. Kids who failed were either crying, collapsing, or lashing out. In this world, if you couldn't walk the immortal path, you were basically locked into blue-collar life forever. No upward mobility. A lot of these kids would just get married after high school and pin everything on their future kids, generation after generation. Some of them were coming for me. Why did Wu Qin make it when they didn't? Was he on banned drugs? Had he gotten an illegal spiritual root transplant? They were going to report him. Li Peiran couldn't take it and jumped in to defend me. I read through the messages without replying. I wasn't mad. I understood exactly what was happening. When reality hits that hard, people say stupid things. They weren't really targeting me. I was just the last person in the class to break through, which made me the perfect punching bag. If I hadn't made it, there'd be one more person in the same boat as them. That was the comfort they were looking for. If the system hadn't woken up in time, I could have been one of them. Was it fair? Probably not. But the world was never fair on this planet or the last one. Monday morning, October 1st. No holidays on this version of Earth. First period was pill making with our homeroom teacher, Zhao Bingshan. Even kids who'd already lost their university eligibility had to show up, since there were regular universities and vocational schools to think about. Before class ended, Zhao talked about registration. The ones who could still take the exam should keep pushing. The ones who couldn't shouldn't be discouraged because there were other paths in life. Everyone knew that second part was pure comfort talk. Then came the resource package sign-ups. Students lined up by ID number. Louis went first. Zhao asked if he wanted the usual 30,000 package. Louis straightened his back and announced his family wanted to upgrade to 50,000. The whole class stared. 50,000 a month, on top of what the school already provided. His total cultivation spending was probably over 100,000 monthly. One by one, the qualified students went up. 30,000, 10,000, 30,000. Meanwhile, the kids who'd missed the cutoff sat there with increasingly red eyes. Li Peiran's turn came. He ran up excited, but froze the second he faced the teacher. He always stuttered around authority figures. He squeaked out his usual 5,000 order. Zhao nodded and told him to pay more attention since his cultivation had been stagnating lately. Li Peiran's face went beet red, and he practically fled the podium. Then it was my turn. Zhao asked if I wanted the usual 3,000. That was the bottom tier, what I've been buying for 3 years. I shook my head and said 5,000 this time. Since I was the last person in class 6 to qualify for the exam, everyone was watching me. Most of them were the ones who'd failed to break through. Hearing that the poorest kid in class was upgrading his package hit them somewhere deep. I could see it on their faces. It was like watching someone discover their loser neighbor had actually won the lottery. You're already annoyed. Then you find out he's also dating someone way out of his league, and you just want to scream about how unfair everything is. Zhao looked surprised and asked if I was sure. I told him no pressure. He didn't push it. After everyone collected their resources, the bell rang and the room filled with chatter. I could feel people staring at me. For the students who'd lost their shot at the exam, spiritual resources were pointless now. Some of them hadn't even bought a package today. That saved their families money, sure. But who could actually accept that? Getting into a mortal university had been their only goal for over a decade. When that shatters, the bitterness doesn't just go away. They needed somewhere to put all that anger. Second period was combat skills outside on the playground. The moment I got there, Gao Siyuan came up to me. Tall, white, fat, 5th level of chi refining. We barely interacted normally. He asked if I wanted to spar. I glanced past him. Under the trees at the edge of the playground, basically every student who'd lost their university chance was gathered, watching coldly. This whole thing was set up. I was their emotional outlet. Li Peiran stepped in and pointed out that Gao Siyuan was 5th level while I was only 4th. Why not spar with Lu Yi instead? Gao Siyuan sneered and said if Li Peiran thought it was unfair, he could join in. He'd take us both. Li Peiran grabbed my arm and tried to pull me away. He could sense something was off about the whole class vibe today and didn't want me walking into a trap. But I didn't move. I said sure. Both of them froze. Gao Siyuan was the one who recovered first, worried I'd change my mind. He started talking about how a gentleman's word was binding. Li Peiran yanked me aside and whispered that Gao Siyuan's falling mountain collapse technique was already pretty developed, and we were no match. I patted his shoulder and told him to just watch carefully. I'd only demonstrate once. Li Peiran looked at me like I'd lost his mind. Then he took off to find a combat skills teacher. Gao Siyuan walked me to the center of the playground and grinned. He said he had nothing personal against me, but some people in class didn't like me, and he was short on cash lately. He'd try to finish quick so I'd suffer less. Gao Siyuan noticed I'd been staring at his forehead without saying anything. He got uncomfortable, shook his neck, and told me to stop looking at him like that. Then he launched into this whole speech about how Lu Yi upgraded his package and nobody bothered him. But I spent an extra 2,000 and was about to get beaten. He said if I wanted to blame someone, I should blame myself for being untalented and poor. I wasn't scared. I was grinning because the system had just dropped a new mission in my lap. It detected strong, killing intent nearby. Gao Siyuan was being framed as some heretical demon born from the Dharma-ending age. His cultivation was described as terrifyingly powerful at mid-stage chi refining. The system called this a contest of the Tao. Victory would bring clarity to my Tao heart. Defeat would destroy everything. Mission objective was to defeat this evil demon lord. Reward was a 100% increase in comprehension. The description was as unhinged as always. Gao Siyuan was just a high school student. But when I saw the reward, I literally laughed out loud. 100% comprehension boost. Not the 10 times from the sect master title with restrictions. This was enhancing my actual innate talent. No strings attached. And it's stacked with the title bonus. That's why I was looking at Gao Siyuan like an old friend. Who gives you gifts that generous unless they're a friend? I told him to hurry up and start fighting already. I pulled out the standard school-issue longsword. Gao Siyuan's spiritual energy flared. His muscles swelled, stretching his uniform tight. That was the mark of minor completion with the mountain collapse technique. I held up a hand and told him to wait. His face went through several emotions. He was mid-punch and had to hold it. He snapped at me, asking if I was seriously calling a pause now. Was I even a man? I asked him how much they'd paid him to beat me up. He blinked and blurted out 100,000 spirit coins before catching himself. 100,000. I almost laughed again. If I'd known people would pay that much just to see me get punched, I could have skipped all the money-making schemes and just stood here letting people hit me. But 10,000 was nothing compared to a permanent comprehension boost. I held up my left hand, 5 fingers spread. Here was the deal. If he lost, the 100,000 was mine. If he won, I'd give him an extra 100,000. Gao Siyuan went silent. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Where would I get 100,000? Was I underestimating him just because I'd recently hit 4th level? Young guys hate, nothing more than being looked down on. His anger went from 100 to 120%. He slammed his fist together in front of his chest, creating a shockwave, and told me I'd asked for it. I calmly pulled up the spirit network and suggested we sign a dual agreement first, so he couldn't back out. The federal government had set up a whole system for private fights. Both parties sign, and then you fight however you want. Gao Siyuan signed his name so hard I thought he'd break the screen. His fist was already coming for my face before he'd even closed the interface. He'd reached his absolute limit. That punch carried everything he'd built in 3 years of high school. Wind tore across the playground. A fist the size of a clay pot was heading straight for my face. At that exact moment, Li Peiran came sprinting across the field with Xia Yao, our combat skills teacher, right behind him. She was young, freshly graduated from Immortal Dao Normal University, built like a female leopard. Li Peiran was screaming that I was about to get killed. Xia Yao told him to shut up. This was a school. Nobody would kill someone. But she wasn't totally sure, so she took off at full speed, turning herself into a whirlwind. Li Peiran spun around 2 or 3 times from the wind. A muffled boom came from the center of the playground. Dust and wind erupted everywhere. Xia Yao charged into the smoke, heart sinking. She was worried about her evaluation if a student got hurt. Then she caught a glimpse of someone chasing someone else through the dust. The one being chased was scrambling frantically. The pursuer was following at a casual stroll. She couldn't tell who was who. She shouted at Gao Siyuan to stop immediately. The person on the ground heard her voice, got startled, and scrambled toward her. The person behind kept coming at the same leisurely pace. Xia Yao's face got darker by the second. She told Gao Siyuan to stop, and he was ignoring her completely. Young teachers already had a rough time with high schoolers, and being flat-out ignored in front of everyone was not great for her authority. She yelled again, threatening to take action herself. The figure approaching just kept walking at the same steady pace. But the person being chased actually stopped cold, collapsing in place. Xia Yao was confused. How badly had Gao Siyuan hurt his classmate? She reached the person on the ground, ready to teach Gao Siyuan a lesson the moment he got close. Then the smoke cleared enough to see who was holding the sword. It wasn't Gao Siyuan. It was me. I was standing there with a standard-issue flying sword, kind of surprised to see her. Teacher Xia? Her brain short-circuited. If I was the one standing, then where was Gao Siyuan? A trembling voice came from down at her feet. A hand weakly lifted from the ground. Gao Siyuan, begging for help. Xia Yao's eye twitched. A storm was raging inside her head. A 4th-level Qi refining cultivator had beaten a 5th level? When did I get this strong? But then she remembered I'd ignored her order to stop. She snapped at me, asking why I was still chasing Gao Siyuan after she told everyone to stop. I spread my hands and pointed out that she'd told Gao Siyuan to stop and not move. She hadn't told me to stop. Xia Yao had no response. Technically, I was right. But how was she supposed to know a 4th level could wreck a 5th level like that? Then a light went on in her eyes. She asked if I'd mastered the slanting wind sword technique. Word spread fast. By the time everyone in Class 6 knew, most of them didn't want to believe it. I'd beaten Gao Siyuan, and my slanting wind was at perfection. If people were bitter about me hitting 4th level before, now they wouldn't even look at me. Mastering a technique to perfection during high school was a whole different level. Only 7.8% of students in the entire Tianshu region managed that. The national pass rate for top universities was 9.1%. I was basically top university material. Nobody who'd lost their exam eligibility was about to come extort money from me now. For a long time after, people in Class 6 couldn't forget one image. Gao Siyuan on a stretcher, face full of despair, staring up at the sky with tears running down. He'd lost the fight and lost 100,000 spirit coins. Having something and then losing it was its own kind of torture. Li Peiran came up looking hurt that I'd kept my progress secret. I put my arm around his shoulder and said it had just happened last night, then offered to buy him lunch. Lu Yi walked over and called me a man of great talent. I thanked him solemnly for the Qi condensation pill that had helped me break through. He laughed it off and clapped his hands to get the whole class's attention. He declared I was now his brother, and anyone who messed with me was messing with him. The kids who'd been behind the whole scheme felt a chill. I wasn't on their level anymore. Nobody was going to try anything. In the crowd, Zhuang Chunyao watched me silently. She was irritated by any improvement in me, like she was gradually losing control. Nobody knew she'd gotten a cut of that 100,000. The combat class still had to continue. At Xia Yao's request, I demonstrated the perfected slanting wind in front of everyone. Sword light scattered like slanting rain. I hit the combat dummy and scored 142. That convinced everyone I really did have 5th level combat power. During free practice, for the first time ever, I was surrounded by classmates asking for cultivation advice. Several girls even asked me to practice with them that evening. Li Peiran was jealous, but I had to turn them all down since I was heading to morning light that night. After class, we were walking out of the playground when Li Peiran grabbed my arm and pointed ahead. The girl over there was Su Qingli, who just transferred into Class 1. Long hair to her waist, icy expression, skin so pale it was almost transparent. She walked alone, and nobody came within 5 meters of her. She was the school beauty of 3rd middle, an exchange student from the cultivation world that Su Qingli wasn't just some random transfer. With communication between the two worlds fully open, people from the cultivation world came to Blue Star all the time. Most of them fell into 2 categories. Either their cultivation was stalled and they wanted the safety and legal protection Earth offered, or they were young heirs from powerful families doing a stint on Blue Star to get cultured before heading back for serious training. Su Qingli was the second type. She transferred in early September straight into the top class. She was the only exchange student from the cultivation world in the entire 3rd middle school. On her first day, the top student in the senior year challenged her. He got instant deleted in one move. Teachers who watched said her combat score was at least a perfect. The foundation behind the major cultivation families was no joke. Powerful, beautiful, and cold as a freezer, she took the school beauty crown without anyone even debating it. Of all the girls I knew, only Xia Chenxi was in the same league looks-wise, and they were completely different vibes. One was morning sun, the other was moonlight on ice. Then the system pinged. It detected a genius-level individual nearby. A complete Ice Phoenix Tao body had survived into this era of Dharma decline. The system called her bloodline, the only way to rebuild the Chun sect and reverse its decline. If recruitment failed, the sect would never flourish. This was the final gamble of a dying civilization. Mission objective was to recruit Su Qingli into the Chun sect. Reward was a recipe for something called heart-disturbing incense. I almost cursed it out loud. The system was at it again. First Xia Chenxi was for developing the sect and saving the world. Now was the last gamble of civilization itself. And why did its detection system only pick up beautiful women? Was it running a beauty pageant? Xia Chenxi at least was someone I knew. I could kind of manage that. But Su Qingli? The girl hadn't said a single word to me. She had a personal force field that kept everyone 5 meters away. I was supposed to walk up to an iceberg and ask if she wanted to join my family member list. Whether I was smooth or clumsy about it, I'd get beaten to death on the spot. And even if I somehow pulled it off, what would happen when Xia Chenxi found out I'd added another young, beautiful girl to the household? Her fist would meet my skull. As for the reward, heart-disturbing incense, I'd at least hoped for the second move of the cloud sword technique. The whole thing was too abstract. I'd met Su Qingli exactly once since the semester started. I shook my head and decided to shelf it. Better to focus on my own cultivation. Su Qingli drifted away without acknowledging anyone, leaving nothing but a cool back view. I punched Li Peiran and told him to stop staring. Hadn't he said last time he liked you, Finfin? He muttered that he was just appreciating beauty, and nobody said he could only appreciate one person at a time. I asked why he didn't appreciate his father instead. I was a legendary figure who just mastered the great perfection of the slanting wind sword technique. He shrugged and said his appreciation radar couldn't detect my gender. Back in the classroom, I claimed the comprehension boost from beating Gao Siyuan. Instantly, my senses sharpened. Sound were louder, vision was crisper. I could see two birds making out in a tree outside the window. The one on the left was sticking its tongue out. Weird. More importantly, my sensitivity to spiritual energy had jumped. My perception and absorption efficiency had already doubled from the treatise, but the comprehension boost pushed it even further. I tested the 5 grains absorption technique and found energy absorption was up about 30%. The technique itself felt surprisingly easy now, like it was simple. That had to be the comprehension talking. Next class was weapon crafting, my worst subject. I'd scored a pathetic 24 out of 100 last time. But now the fire control theories and material reactions that used to go over my head were actually making sense. Improving comprehension apparently covered intelligence too. My college entrance exam scores were going up again. Over the course of the day, the surprises kept coming every half hour. By evening, I realized the comprehension boost had improved my overall learning ability across the board, not just one thing. The 5 senses were enhanced too, probably because they were the most basic channels for learning. Before dinner, we lined up to collect resource packages. When my name was called, Gao Siyuan happened to be right in front of me. He'd been avoiding me since the fight, partly from the beating, partly because looking at me reminded him of the 100,000 he'd gained and lost. I was feeling great about my new comprehension and saw him as a walking blessing. Without Gao Siyuan, I wouldn't have this boost. He was basically my benefactor. As we passed each other, I grabbed his hand with both of mine, beaming like we were old friends reuniting. I told him he was such a good person, and I was so grateful. His face was priceless. Negative emotions plus 666. After that, my life settled into a rhythm. Classes during the day, morning light cultivation center at night. The 100,000 I'd won from Gao Siyuan meant I didn't have to stress about money for a while. The meridian opening pills and medicinal bath supplies I'd ordered arrived. Combined with the school's resource package, my cultivation speed jumped noticeably. I was taking a small step forward almost every day. At this rate, I'd break through to 5th level in under a month. At home, I replaced the range hood with a new model that had spiritual energy purification and barely any noise. Linhwa didn't have to deal with oil fume coughing anymore. Lin Roakshuan got her amusement park trip and a new school bag. She came back glowing, saying she'd talked to more classmates in one day than the past year combined. She also picked up a dirty stray dog at the park. After a bath, they found it had a tuft of white fur on its forehead. Linhwa let her keep it. Weekend rolled around. Saturday afternoon in meditation room 8848 at morning light. The system confirmed my 7-day cultivation streak was complete. Basic talismans were fully mastered and ready for extraction. I'd been waiting since yesterday, but couldn't claim it while at school. The moment I extracted it, 3 years of talisman knowledge rearranged itself in my head. Every unit, every concept, every connection between them. It was like everything I'd half-learned suddenly clicked into a complete picture. My talisman score went from barely passing to a guaranteed perfect score. I was almost annoyed the max was only 100 points. I ran my numbers. Combat power at 142. General education average around 120. Talisman course at 100. Pill making it 55. Weapon crafting at 25. Total of 442 without counting the treatise. That already beat last year's lowest second-tier university cutoff in Jiangnan at 430. With the treatise factored in, peak combat power would push me to about 500. First-tier universities wanted 550. I wasn't far off. In less than 10 days, I'd gone from not even qualifying for the college entrance exam to knocking on the door of a first-tier university. I picked up a piece of yellow talisman paper, dipped my pen in cinnabar, and started drawing. What used to feel like pushing through mud now flowed like a highway. 10 minutes later, I lifted the pen. A faint white light pulsed through the cinnabar lines and then settled, locking all the spirituality into the small yellow paper perfectly. A cleansing talisman. What used to take me 2 or 3 hours now took 10 minutes, and that would only get faster as my cultivation grew. I waved it and a soft breeze swept through the room. Every speck of dust on every surface vanished. The place was spotless with a faint, fresh scent. Way better than the market versions. I realized I could make money selling basic talismans. A cleansing talisman cost 10 spirit coins to buy and covered 50 square meters. Mine was stronger and wider, so 20 coins each was reasonable. And cleansing wasn't the only low-level talisman I could make. Speed talismans, light shield talismans, lightning strike talismans, local hardening talismans. I could even apply for a low-level talisman master certificate. I contacted the front desk and ordered 20 sheets of yellow talisman paper. While waiting, I bent down to grind ink. Once the paper arrived, I started drawing. Each one got faster as I went. By the end, a cleansing talisman only took 5 minutes. I made 10 cleansing talismans, 5 speed traveling talismans, and 5 mind-clearing talismans. After cleaning up and meditating for half an hour, I was about to head home when Xia Chenxi contacted me on the Spirit Network. For the past week, except for one Sunday, she was busy. We met at the cultivation center every day. Different rooms, but we compared notes after each session. With her at 9th level Qi refining, her guidance was genuinely helpful. Besides cultivation, we'd also been working on my Taishu realm home layout. Xia Chenxi had been spending her evenings and her money decorating my place. In her words, a home without tables, chairs, or a bed wasn't a home. She was the nominal mistress of the house and absolutely refused to let it stay a bare shell. She wanted to decorate it beautifully. I tried to insist on paying. She shut that down immediately. It was her idea, so she'd pay. If she spent my money, she'd have to consider my budget and couldn't do what she wanted. I couldn't argue with that logic, especially since a better-looking home meant higher charm value. Once charm hit 100, I could invite people to join the family member list as friends. I still had that mission to recruit Su Qingli. It felt unreliable, but working on it on the side wouldn't hurt. Xia Chenxi wanted to show me the renovation results. I logged into the Void Realm. The next few days fell into a rhythm. Classes during the day, practice at the Morning Light Cultivation Center at night. The 100,000 spirit coins I won from Gao Siyuan meant money wasn't a worry. The Meridian Activating Pills and Spirit Cleansing Elixir I ordered online showed up, and combined with the school's resource package, my cultivation speed kicked into a higher gear. At this rate, I would hit the 5th layer of Qi refining in under a month. I upgraded the range hood at home too. New model, built-in spiritual energy purification, basically silent. Linwan wouldn't have to cough from oil fumes anymore. Lin Roakshuan went to the amusement park with her new school bag and came back glowing. Said she talked to more classmates that day than in the past year. She also picked up a dirty stray dog, ordinary yellow mongrel, but after a bath it had this cute tuft of white fur on its forehead. Linwan let her keep it. Saturday afternoon, meditation room 8848 at the Morning Light Center. The system chimed in. 7 consecutive days of at least 4 hours each day. Task complete. Basic talismans fully mastered. I extracted the reward, and my brain got absolutely flooded. Every piece of talisman knowledge from 3 years of high school instantly locked into place. It was like someone opened up the run and do meridians in my understanding. I didn't just memorize the knowledge points anymore. I saw how they all connected. The entire talismanic way laid itself out like a map. Before this, my talisman score was barely passing. Now I could get a perfect score easily. I was almost annoyed the course maxed out at 100 points. I ran the numbers. Combat power at 142. General education averaging 120. Talisman at 100. Pill class at 55. Weapon refining at 25. Total of 442. Last year's lowest second-tier cutoff in Jiangnan was 430. I had already cleared it. Factor in the tails of all things adding about 50 more, and I was sitting around 500. First-tier cutoff was 550. Not far off. Less than 10 days ago, I was a bottom feeder who couldn't qualify for the exam. Now I was knocking on first-tier doors. If Yuan Jingsong found out, he would hang my photo above every past principal and put his own at the very top. I decided to shelve talismans and focus on pills and weapon crafting. I grabbed yellow talisman paper, dipped my pen in cinnabar, and drew. What used to feel like a blocked circuit was now a wide-open highway. 10 minutes later, I lifted the pen. The cinnabar lines lit up with a soft white glow, then receded, locking all the spirituality inside. A perfect cleansing talisman. What used to take 2 or 3 hours now took 10 minutes. I waved it, and a gentle breeze swept through the room. Every speck of dust vanished. The room went spotless with a faint, fresh scent. Way better than market cleaning talismans. Then it hit me. I could make money. My talismans were better and covered more area, so I could charge 20 spirit coins each. Speed talismans, light shield talismans, lightning strike talismans, local hardening talismans. I could even get a low-level talisman master certificate. I ordered 20 yellow talisman papers from the front desk and went to work. Each one took less time as I got into the flow. By the end, a cleansing talisman only took 5 minutes. I made 10 cleansing, 5 speed traveling, and 5 mind-clearing ones. After cleaning up and meditating for half an hour, I was about to head home when Xia Chinsi pinged me. She wanted me to check out the home network. For the past week, we had been meeting at the cultivation center daily. Her 9th layer of chi refining meant she could guide me, and I was picking up a lot. But she had another project, too. My home layout. She had been spending her evenings decorating my place with her own money. In her words, my home was too rudimentary, lacking even basic furniture. She was the nominal mistress of the house and absolutely could not tolerate a bare shell. I tried to pay. She refused, saying if she spent my money, she couldn't do what she wanted. I had no room to argue since she was footing the bill. I figured it was fine. Better home meant more charm value. Once charm hit 100, I could invite people to join my family member list. I still had that mission to recruit Su Qingli into the Qin sect. Felt unreliable, but doing it on the side wouldn't hurt. I logged into the Void Realm to see what she had done. I entered the Void Realm, and my grassland was gone. Just gone. In its place was this massive blue ocean with a bunch of little islands. And on the biggest one, there was a house with coconut trees and sunshine and a gentle breeze. It looked like a vacation resort. I stood there wondering how much spirit coins this had cost and whether I was still technically home. 2 lives, and I still couldn't understand women's tastes. Xia Chensi was waving at me from the island. I teleported over and immediately narrowed my eyes because she was standing in front of the house wearing nothing but a pink and white bikini. The sun was shining, waves were crashing, sand was scorching, and she was posing like she'd just won Miss Tropical Island. She put her hands on her hips, raised her pretty face, and asked me how it looked. I asked if she meant her or the environment. She blushed, threatened to punch me, then reminded me that everything in the Taishu realm could be customized with money. She dared me to say I had feelings for her virtual appearance. She said if I liked her, I had to bark like a dog 3 times. I told her she was overthinking it. Then I exaggeratedly glanced at her chest and nodded like I just solved a mystery, saying no wonder it didn't look that big in reality. She punched me in the chest. Of course, she didn't use much force. We joked and played all the way into the house. The house was the same 300 square meters I bought before, 2 floors, but Xia Chensi had completely redesigned everything. She said she'd done it by feel and told me not to scold her. I said I'd never scold someone over decoration, especially since she paid for it. 5 minutes later, I was yelling because I couldn't open the bathroom door. She crept over looking guilty, fingers twisting together, and explained she bought a regular door, but switched it to a revolving door halfway through installation. I pushed the left side. Nothing. I pushed the right side. Nothing. It couldn't turn left or right. She kicked the bottom, and the door rotated up and down. A revolving door that rotates vertically. I asked if I was supposed to slide into the bathroom from now on. Turns out you don't actually need to use the toilet in the Void Realm, so I let it slide. I forgave Xia Chensi. She told me to go check the balcony. The second floor was open plan, tiled directly, very spacious. Soft lighting made it feel great. I told her it was actually good. Then I noticed the washing machine door was open and closed it. The living room lights went out. I opened it. Lights on. Closed it. Lights off. The washing machine door controlled the living room lights. Was this a design any normal carbon-based life form could come up with? She said I promised not to scold her and that a man keeps his word. I said fine and went to check the bedroom. I stopped halfway and asked if the master bathroom had a revolving door. She swore up and down it was perfectly normal patting her chest to reassure me. I walked into the bedroom. She ran downstairs, covering her mouth, trying not to laugh. The moment she hit the first floor, my roar shook the building. I was screaming about why the toilet was inside the closet. We were on opposite sides of the stairs, me upstairs losing my mind, her downstairs dying of laughter. I pointed at her and said, "Don't move." I promised I wouldn't kill her. She swayed her hips triumphantly and reminded me I couldn't beat her in a fight anyway. Damn, she was right that I forgave Xia Chenxi in the end. And no, it was definitely not because her abstract decorating style had actually bumped the charm score to 80 points. Once she fixed all the stuff she'd done on purpose to mess with me, it'd be close to 100. Sitting on the living room sofa, I asked her if she knew any reliable channels for selling low-level talismans. She said I could buy and sell directly in the shopping area of the club, though the quality requirements were higher than average. That saved me a trip. I was confident in my talisman quality. We left the Taishi realm and headed to the shopping area. A manager named Shiming Wei took us to a meeting room. He glanced at me, saw a high school student, and immediately wrote me off. The Morning Light Cultivation Club had strict quality standards, 20 to 30% higher than the mass market, and he figured I was just some kid trying to cash in on a connection with Xia Chenxi. He'd been doing this job long enough to know the club's competitors were always watching, and he wasn't about to ruin their reputation for a kid's hobby project. He gave his whole speech about how their quality control was non-negotiable, how even if General Manager Xia himself showed up, the attitude would be the same. Xia Chenxi just sat there propping up her cheek, totally unbothered, and told me she couldn't pull strings for me this time. She was curious about my talismans too, since she didn't actually know the quality. I told Shiming Wei I wanted to sell cleansing talismans, speed-traveling talismans, and mind-cleansing talismans. His face practically screamed that I was a scammer. Those were the 3 lowest-level talismans, the exact ones tested in the college entrance exam, the ones with the thinnest profit margins and the fiercest competition. The club selection standards were 50% above market, and they bought in bulk, but wanted a handful of talismans from high schooler. He started telling me it wouldn't work out. I pulled out a cleansing talisman and activated it. A gentle wind swept through the room, and Shiming Wei shut up mid-sentence. The words were stuck in his throat. The guy had handled thousands of talismans as a product manager and had seen at least 30 different ways to draw a cleansing talisman. None of them compared to mine. He grabbed it, examined the brushwork and circuitry, and the disdain in his eyes got replaced by pure shock. The brushwork was impossibly skilled. No advanced techniques, but the most basic strokes pushed to their absolute limit. The quality far surpassed mainstream brands, even the ones sold in their own club. He asked to see the other 2 with fire in his eyes. His expression went from surprise to admiration to something like regret. He asked if I'd really drawn these myself. I said I could demonstrate on the spot. That openness convinced him 80% right there. He leaned back and sighed about what a pity it was. Xia Chenxi was equally stunned. She couldn't draw those 3 talismans anywhere near my level. She was happy for me, but puzzled by his reaction. Then Shiming Wei dropped the bad news. The quality was incredible, but it couldn't be sold at high price. Even mid-level talisman masters would struggle to make the spiritual energy connections on a cleansing talisman that perfect. It was practically a work of art, but it was still just a cleansing talisman. Nobody would pay 30 spirit coins when a 10-coin version did the same job. The cleaning difference wasn't big enough to justify the gap. For talisman makers, it was always more economical to learn higher-level stuff than to perfect the low end. He offered to buy what I had at a high price as personal recognition of my skill, nothing to do with connections. But he couldn't promise to keep buying low-level talismans at premium prices unless I sold at normal market rates, which he thought was unfair to me. From his perspective, it was genuinely good advice. But for me, talismans were a steady income source, even at normal prices. And with my current mastery, I could try advanced talismans down the line, so his channel mattered a lot. I told him my thinking and his respect for me went up again. A young man with mature thinking at his age was a rare talent. He was already thinking about recommending me for something. Then he mentioned the club was holding a talisman competition soon. The first Linjiang City Talisman Making Competition, open to all talisman makers in the city. Low-level, mid-level, and high-level categories. Top 10 from each region got at least 5,000 spirit coins and a chance to sign contracts with the club and other major companies, officially becoming talisman masters under them. Even in this modern immortal society, being proficient in cultivation arts still let you live decently, and the higher the level, the more sought after you were. Top 3 got a mystery grand prize. Registration was 800 yuan for the low-level category, running from November 1st to New Year. I told him money was my biggest passion right now, and I was in. He called me straightforward and slapped 500 spirit coins on the table for the talismans. 20 talismans, 1 used for the demo, 19 left. The price was well above market. I took the money and we headed out. Shi Minghui called after me. Since I'd done him a favor, he wanted to ask one more question. What was my relationship with Xia Chenxi? His chubby face had this gossipy smile. Before I could answer, she jumped up, blocked his view, waved her arms around, grabbed my arm, and dragged me out the door. Watching me leave, she clenched her fist and whispered a pep talk to herself. She had to work harder. She absolutely could not bark like a dog. Next day, Monday, I went to school as usual. I decided to keep my talisman progress quiet. Get rich quietly, that's the move. But I could be sneaky about other things. During morning reading talisman dictation, I deliberately got 5 right and 5 wrong, when before I'd only get 3 or 4. Gradual improvement, no one suspicious. Wait a month, write 7 right. Same pace, no red flags. Li Peiran immediately noticed. He'd been using my wrong answers to reverse engineer the right ones, getting 6 or 7 right by doing the opposite of whatever I did. But now I'd gotten 5 right, so his whole system collapsed, and he only got 4. His worst score ever. He accused me of secretly working hard to amaze everyone. I wanted to punch his smug face. His reasoning process was completely wrong and extremely abstract, yet he'd still somehow gotten the answer. Then he leaned in and whispered some code about derivatives and shared new problem sets with me. The question bank wasn't up to date enough. I just gave him an okay sign and told him I'd try the problems that night. You really had to be talking about derivatives? Next class was pill making with Zhao Bingsheng. I kept pushing Li Peiran to study harder. He'd been obedient ever since watching me master the slanting wind sword technique the week before. In the immortal world, if 2 friends were too far apart in strength, they couldn't be real friends. That scared him more than hard work ever could. Zhao Bingsheng walked in, put his textbook on the podium, and adjusted his glasses. The whole class went silent. He had 2 things to tell us. First, there had been some minor demonic incidents in the city recently. Police superintendents from the security division would be stationed at the school for safety. We shouldn't go near the defensive formations or warehouses. But there was no need to worry, just a precaution. I frowned. Another demon? I remembered seeing Shun Xiangchen at the school before. A dignified police inspector hanging around a high school probably wasn't a coincidence. Demons had always existed, but incidents were usually suppressed quickly. This time felt different. They were happening one after another, and even making it on a television. The students didn't seem too worried, though. High school seniors knew demons were a different species that humans had fought 500 years ago, but that was textbook knowledge. Nobody had actually seen one. Low probability event wouldn't happen to them. The second thing was that the school was creating a new elite class for senior students, with an additional assessment to get in. The classroom exploded. Shi Minghui leaned across his desk and told me about a talisman competition. My ears perked up. The first Linjiang City Talisman Making Competition, run by the Morning Light Cultivation Club, open to all talisman makers in the city. 3 categories. He thought I was fully capable of the low-level category and placing well. He slid a details sheet across the table. Xia Chenxi and I huddled over it. Top 10 from each region would get at least 5,000 spirit coins, plus contract opportunities with Chenxi Cultivation Club and other big companies. Top 3 got a mystery grand prize. Registration ran November 1st through New Year. Entry fee was 800 yuan. Shi Minghui clasped his hands and waited. He guaranteed top 10 minimum. He asked if I was opposed to making money. I told him money was my biggest passion right now. I would participate. He pulled out 500 spirit coins for my 20 talismans. Fair price, well above market. I took the coins and got up to leave. Then Sure Mingwei glanced at Xia Chenxi bouncing beside me and got that look. The gossipy look. He asked what my relationship was with his young lady. Before I could even open my mouth, Xia Chenxi launched herself between us, arms and legs flailing. She insisted it was just a simple friendship and asked why everyone overthought things, just like Uncle Huang. Then she grabbed my arm and dragged me out the door. As I was leaving, I heard her whispering a pep talk to herself. Xia Chenxi, you have to work harder. You absolutely cannot bark like a dog. I had no idea what that meant and honestly chose not to ask. Some things are better left as mysteries, like why Xia Chenxi was so worked up about barking like a dog. Monday. School as usual. I decided to keep my talisman progress under wraps. Making a fortune quietly was the way. During morning reading, I deliberately got 5 out of 10 on the talisman dictation. Before I could only manage 3 or 4. 5 was believable. I would do 7 a month, then more after that. Nobody would see anything suspicious. Smart move, or so I thought. Li Peiran immediately turned around and pointed out I'd gotten 5 right. I had been so careful. He told me I'd gone too far. His whole strategy was peeking at my answers and doing the opposite, which got him 6 or 7 on dictations. But I got 5 today, which broke his system. He only got 4, his worst ever. He accused me of secretly working hard to amaze everyone. I wanted to punch his smug face. His reasoning was completely wrong and abstract, yet he had reverse engineered the right answers most of the time. He leaned in and whispered some cryptic code about derivatives and question banks. I understood immediately. He was definitely talking about derivatives. I gave him an okay sign. Next class was pill making with Zhao Bingsheng. I was keeping Li Peiran on a tight leash about studying too. After watching me master the slanting wind sword technique last week, his resistance to studying had dropped. In the immortal world, if 2 friends were too different in strength, they couldn't stay true friends. That scared him more than hard work. Zhao Bingsheng walked in, put his textbook on the podium, adjusted his glasses. 2 announcements. First, minor demonic incidents in the city recently. Police superintendents from a security division would be stationed at the school. We should not act alone or go near the defensive formations. He said we were absolutely safe. I frowned. I thought about Shun Xianchen showing up at Zhao Bingsheng's office that one time. Demons had always existed, but this time felt different. The incidents were piling up, and they were on television. These seniors didn't know much about demons, just that they were a different species, and we fought a survival war 500 years ago. Nobody had seen one, so I didn't see much worry on anyone's faces. Everyone figured it wouldn't happen to them. The second announcement hit different. The school was conducting an additional assessment and creating a new elite class. The classroom exploded. Demons were abstract, but the college entrance exam and elite classes were personal. Everyone started talking at once. Third middle school had 14 senior classes, 700 students. Only class 1 was the top class. Students like Lu Yi and Zhuang Chunya at 7th layer Qi refining were just average there. Half the regular class might get into an immortal Dao university. For class 1, the goal was more than half. The current class 1 had been reassigned a month ago. Now, redividing again. Nobody had heard of that happening twice in senior year. Zhao Bingsheng explained a teacher from the Tianlang Sword Sect affiliated university in Chunshan City was returning to Linjiang. He would head the new elite class. Then the bomb. This teacher had broken through to the spirit pivot realm 10 years ago. Dead silence. A pencil rolled off someone's desk and hit the floor. Lu Ye's breathing got rapid. Even Zhuang Chunya shifted in her seat. The entire third middle school didn't have a single spirit pivot realm expert. Above Qi refining came meridian condensation. Above that spirit pivot. Spirit pivot people were university professor level. In Linjiang, they were on par with the mayor. And this person came from the Tianlang Sword Sect affiliated university. One of the top 6 sections. No dispute. I definitely wanted into the elite class, but if it meant risking my secret, was it worth it? The system rewards were already pushing my strength up without the top class. Then again, A spirit pivot realm teacher could accelerate things in ways the system couldn't predict. Li Peiran said he really wanted in, but probably didn't have a chance. I told him there was nothing to regret. Doing our own thing and being responsible for the present was the most correct path. I opened my pill-making textbook and started reviewing. Zhao Bingxing noticed. While everyone else buzzed with excitement, I was already studying. He had been surprised by me a lot lately. He didn't think I had a shot at the top class, but my composure made him nod in silent approval. Over the next few days, the whole school talked about nothing else. The demon incidents got way less attention than the elite class. Someone dug up the new teacher's identity by that afternoon. In a third-tier city like Linjiang, not many people came from the 6 major universities, let alone professors from their affiliated schools. Liao Qingfeng, 54 years old, top scorer in Linjiang when he entered the Tianlang Sword Sect affiliated university over 30 years ago, stayed on to teach after graduation. His early research on storing sword energy in industrial media apparently influenced the shared flying sword design everyone used now. He practiced the sword gate breathing technique, an A-level sword sect skill, and the clarity sword technique from Jinyang Peak. Then the speculations started about who would get in. All 10 from the old class 1 were locks, especially Su Qingli, the top student in the entire grade. Some people even suspected her family knew about the elite class in advance, and that's why they enrolled her at 3rd middle school early. No evidence, but that's how gossip works. It spreads faster than a fire talisman in a library. In class 6, everyone was already celebrating with Lu Yi. Then someone asked if I had a chance. 2 weeks ago, nobody would have asked that. The fact someone did showed how much my reputation had shifted. But most people's first reaction was still, "Are you kidding me?" Wang Lin glanced at Zhuang Chunya, frowning slightly, and shut it down. She told Li Qing he was out of his mind. If you weren't at 7th layer, don't think about the top class. I had only been at 4th layer for a few days. Zhuang Chunya changed the subject. She asked Lu Yi to get monthly cards for the Dawn Cultivation Club so they could train together. She smiled, and the male classmates short-circuited. She glanced back at me studying at my desk, muttered something about weak foundations, and stopped thinking about me. She hoped I would understand that even without side help, the gap between us was insurmountable. I was completely unaware Zhuang Chunya had turned me into a rival in her head. Even if I had known, I wouldn't have cared. My priority was fixing my alchemy and weapon crafting scores. I stared at the character for fire on my draft paper. That was the skill I needed to improve most. Whether it was alchemy or weapon crafting, the foundation was fire. Fire control and fire source were the 2 sub-themes. Fire control was straightforward enough. Fire source meant unusual fires in the world that gave pills and artifacts unique properties. But finding a special fire was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and the college entrance exam didn't require it. So I focused on fire control. My previous skills were, to put it mildly, embarrassing. After thinking it over, I had an idea. Zhao Bingsheng was the only intermediate-level alchemist at 3rd middle school. Just ask him. I went to his office and pushed open the door. Zhao Bingsheng's face immediately soured. Lately, dozens, maybe hundreds of students have been coming to curry favor because of the new elite class. He hated that opportunistic behavior and hadn't given a friendly look to any visiting student in days. He thought I was different. He put down his pen and asked coldly if I didn't understand the principle of knowing my own limits. I said I did understand, which was exactly why I wanted to ask about fire control techniques. He paused. Wait, I was here to ask about fire control? I asked what else I would come to his office for, to eat with him. He rubbed his forehead and admitted his mistake. I pulled 6 books out of my bag and slammed them on the table. Nearly knocked over his water glass. 6 years of pill-making textbooks, 1st through 3rd year. His expression changed completely. He asked if I didn't even know these. I told him I could memorize theory on my own, but just memorizing fire control knowledge points wasn't enough. I wanted to relearn everything from the ground up. Zhao Bingxing got serious when he saw I wasn't joking. He was swamped with the demon stuff and elite class prep, busy from morning to night. If it had been anyone else, or the old me, he would have just assigned a tutor student to help. But my recent performance had left a genuinely good impression. He knew my alchemy and weapon crafting scores were garbage. If I fix my fire control, those two subjects would jump fast. He thought for a few minutes and said there was too much for a quick explanation. He told me to come an hour early every morning and he would wait in his office. Then he added that if it was too tiring, I could skip it. I agreed without hesitation. He was already giving up an hour every morning for me. Sleep was overrated anyway. Right then the system chimed in. It detected that I had found a renowned alchemy master. A new quest had been triggered. Demons were abstract and distant. But the college entrance exam and elite classes, that hit everyone right in the wallet in the future. Third middle school had 14 senior classes, about 700 students total. Only class 1 was the top class, where the real elites went. Students like Lu Yi and Zhuang Chunya, 7th level Qi refining and top of class 6, were just average people in class 1. Half the regular class might get into an immortal Dao university. For class 1, the goal was more than half. Every year, they reshuffled class 1 based on grades, like an index fund rebalancing. But now they were doing it again mid-year, which nobody had ever heard of for senior students. Zhao Bingxing explained. A teacher who used to teach at the Tianlang Sword Sect affiliated university in Chunxin City was coming back to his hometown of Linjiang. He'd be the head teacher of the new elite class. Then Zhao Bingsheng dropped the bomb. This teacher had broken through to the spirit pivot realm 10 years ago. The classroom went dead silent. A pencil rolled off a desk and hit the floor. Everyone snapped back to reality with shock on their faces. The entire third middle school, including the principal, didn't have a single spirit pivot realm expert. Above Qi refining was meridian condensation, and above that was spirit pivot. Spirit pivot realm people were university professor level. In a city like Linjiang, they were on par with the mayor. And this guy was coming to be a homeroom teacher? He'd be the strongest teacher in the school's history. And he came from the Tianlang Sword Sect affiliated university, one of the top 6 sects in the cultivation world. Everyone was already wondering if making a good impression could get them a special mission shot. Even a tiny chance was enough to make every student in Linjiang go crazy. Transfer requests were about to flood the school. For me, though, it was complicated. I wanted into the elite class, but if getting in meant risking my secret getting discovered, was it worth it? The system rewards were already boosting my strength without the top class. Li Peiran turned around and said he really wanted to get in, but probably didn't have a chance. I told him there was nothing to regret. Doing our own thing and being responsible for the present was the most correct path. Then I opened my pill-making textbook and started reviewing. Zhao Bingxing noticed. While everyone else was whispering excitedly, I was already studying. He'd been surprised by me more than once lately. The Qi refining breakthrough under pressure, mastering the slanting wind sword technique, being cool as a cucumber in front of Shinshanshan. He didn't think I had a shot at the top class, but my composure earned a silent nod of approval from him. He announced the assessment details would come later and started class. The room reluctantly quieted down. Over the next few days, the whole school talked about nothing but demons and the elite class. The demon stuff got way less attention. That afternoon, the new teacher's identity leaked. In a third-tier city like Linjiang, it didn't take much digging. His name was Liao Qingfeng, 54 years old. He'd entered the Tianlang Sword Sect affiliated university as the top scorer from Linjiang over 30 years ago. Stayed on to teach after graduation. Early research was on storing sword energy in industrial media. In the last couple years, he'd shifted focus. The popular shared flying sword designs apparently referenced his early work. He practiced the sword gate breathing technique and the clarity sword technique from Jinyang Peak of the Tianlang Sword Sect. Even that limited info had the young people chatting for days. Then the speculations started about who'd get into the new elite class. All 10 students from the old class 1 were locks, especially Su Qingli, the top student in the entire grade. Some people suspected her family had known about the elite class all along and arranged her transfer to third middle school early. No evidence, but that's how gossip works. Everyone in class 6 was already celebrating with Lu Yi like he was in. He was waving his hand modestly, but his face was pure sunshine. Then someone asked if I had a chance to get into the top class point 2 weeks ago, nobody would have asked if I had shot at the top class. Even now, the first reaction was still, "Are you kidding me?" But the fact that someone asked it all meant people's impression of me had shifted. Lu Yi didn't say anything. Wang Lin jumped in and told Li Qing he was out of his mind. I was only 4th level Qi refining, barely a few days in, probably couldn't even hit 5th level before the assessment. Sure, I'd mastered the slanting wind sword technique, but every original elite student had a mastered technique. I was only stronger than Gao Siyuan. And who was Gao Siyuan anyway? Zhuang Chunya changed the subject and asked Lu Yi about training at the Morning Light Cultivation Club. Lu Yi agreed to get 2 monthly cards. Zhuang Chunya smiled, and the male classmates around her practically short-circuited. She glanced back at me studying at my desk and shook her head. Weak foundation, last-minute cramming. She'd had another thought, too. I'd taken a cultivation monthly card from her before, and she wanted me to understand that even without side help, the gap between us was unbridgeable. I had no idea Zhuang Chunya had casually made me her rival. Not that I'd care if I did. My focus was on improving alchemy and weapon crafting grades. Days were classes and cultivation. Nights with a Morning Light Cultivation Club for swordsmanship and talisman practice. Spare time was figuring out how to fix my fire control. Fire control was the foundation of both alchemy and weapon crafting. There was fire control itself, and then fire seeds, which were special, unusual fires that gave pills and artifacts unique properties. But fire seeds were encounter-by-chance things, not tested in the exam. So I zeroed in on fire control. My previous fire control was, to put it gently, a disaster. Otherwise, I wouldn't have scored 20 or 30 on the weapon crafting test. I thought about it and realized Zhao Bingsheng was the only intermediate-level alchemist at 3rd middle school. So I went straight to his office. I pushed open the door and said I had a question. Zhao Bingsheng's face immediately darkened. Dozens, maybe hundreds of students have been coming to suck up to him and the other 2 Condensation Realm teachers ever since Liao Qingfeng's new elite class was announced. He'd been giving everyone the cold shoulder. He thought I wouldn't stoop to that level. Before I could finish a sentence, he told me to recognize my limitations and work diligently. I said I understood the principle, which was exactly why I wanted to ask about fire control techniques. He paused. Wait, I was here about fire control. I asked what else I'd come for, to eat with him. He rubbed his forehead and admitted he'd misjudged me. I pulled 6 books out of my bag and slammed them on the table, nearly knocking over his water glass. All 6 pill-making textbooks from 1st through 3rd year of high school. His expression changed. He asked why I had all of them out. I said I wanted to learn everything from scratch. He asked if I didn't know any of it. I said I could memorize the theory myself, but just memorizing knowledge points about fire control was useless. I needed to learn it all properly. He thought about it for a few minutes. He was swamped with everything going on, but my recent performance had impressed him. He offered to meet me an hour before school every morning in his office to teach me. He said if it was too tiring, I could skip it. I agreed without hesitation. He was already giving up an hour every day. Who was I to be picky? Sleep was overrated at my age anyway. The system noticed I'd found a renowned alchemy master and trigger quest. The mission was to master the basics of fire control from a great alchemist. The reward was a flame called the Flame of the Netherworld. The system was practically vibrating with excitement. It told me Zhao Bingsheng was a reclusive alchemist living in the mortal realm during the Dharma-ending age, living his best life. His fire control had reached near perfection, practically touching the Tao itself. The system said being invited to learn from him was an opportunity countless cultivators would kill for. The reward was a fire seed called the Flame of the Netherworld. A fire seed. I'd just been thinking about how rare and precious special flames were, and the system had arranged one for me. I didn't know whether to call it reliable or insane. Either way, it gave me even more motivation. Next morning, I arrived at school before dawn, locked up my shared flying sword, and headed to Zhao Bingsheng's office. I was 20 minutes early and spent that time practicing the slanting wind sword technique in the corridor. My understanding of swordsmanship was deepening every day thanks to all the practice with the cloud sword technique. The slanting wind sword technique was showing signs of breaking through to perfection level. Even an F-rank technique at perfection was dangerous. Only the top dozen or so students in Class 1 had perfect level techniques. Zhao Bingxing arrived and watched me from a distance. A young man wielding his sword in the corridor, wind swirling around him, hair whipping in the breeze. He walked over and I sheathed my sword. He asked if I'd had breakfast. I asked if he'd brought me breakfast. He didn't need to ask that question. He tossed me 2 tea eggs and pulled out a palm-sized mini alchemy furnace. He said fire control was the foundation of everything. A slight temperature shift could turn medicine into poison. He lit up a perfect orange-yellow basic spirit fire on his fingertip and showed me how to use mental strength to guide spiritual energy into a stable flame. Temperature, shape, duration. The fire danced on his fingertips like it was alive, sometimes a straight line, sometimes spread flat, sometimes a perfect circle. The temperature never changed. The man was an intermediate-level alchemist, and his fire control was probably unmatched in the whole school. He told me to try it myself. He knew how bad my fire control was and warned me it was okay to fail. Most people with talent stabilized a flame in 1 or 2 tries. People like me, apparently, needed 3 years of high school and still hadn't figured it out. I focused. Spiritual energy gathered at my fingertips. A small orange-yellow flame flickered to life, the size of a soybean. It was shaky, but it didn't go out. It gradually steadied. My forehead was sweating, but I could feel this was different from before. I'd almost touched something, just not proficient enough yet. With my double comprehension, fire control wasn't nearly as hard anymore. Zhao Bingxing looked surprised. The flame was a massive improvement over my previous classroom performance. He asked if I'd been feeling unwell lately, probably suspecting I'd taken some banned performance drug. I said yeah. I did feel uncomfortable. He braced himself. Then I told him what made me uncomfortable was that my classmates were looking at me with respect instead of arrogance, and I preferred the old way. He gave up on talking to me and told me to practice until the flame stabilized. If I could guide it into the alchemy furnace within a week, that'd be great. I practiced by the window. Once, twice, 10 times, 20 times. The hour flew by. I headed to class with half an hour to spare. The school was empty, morning mist still hanging over everything. I leaned on the second-floor corridor railing facing east, recovering spiritual energy, enjoying the peace. Then a figure emerged from the mist at the entrance of the first-floor teaching building. Sukingli. Her face was aloof and stunning, her skirt swaying with each step. She looked like a fairy who'd stepped out of a painting. I was surprised the top student arrived this early. Then she pulled a greasy roasted chicken leg out of her pocket, took a bite, then quickly hid it behind her back and started scanning around with big bright eyes like a nervous deer, afraid of being caught. Then she saw me standing in the second-floor corridor that we locked eyes. Su Qingli froze like a kitten caught stealing food. She shoved the chicken leg behind her back, cold expression gone, replaced by shy embarrassment. Her lips were shiny from chicken grease. She licked them, couldn't meet my gaze, and dissolved into the morning mist. Gone in a blink. I stood up there a long time before my brain rebooted. This was the aloof school beauty? The icy fairy from cultivation novels? She was a foodie with social anxiety. I felt like I'd uncovered some incredible secret. Life settled into a routine. Mornings were fire control lessons with Zhao Bingsheng. Days were regular classes. Evenings were solo practice and studying intermediate talismans for the November competition. I also drew about 20 low-level talismans daily and sold them to Shi Minghui for 300 spirit coins. Almost 10,000 a month. My stepmom Lin only earned 30,000 a year. I didn't run into Su Qingli again. Pretty sure the socially anxious school beauty had changed her route to school. On October 9th, my 4th day of training, I nailed it. I could guide the flame into the alchemy furnace. Zhao Bingxing looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Next, he taught me to process medicinal herbs, easier than fire control, and I picked it up fast. I'd be ready to start refining pills around October 13th. The system confirmed I'd completed the quest and delivered the reward. The Netherworld Cold Flame. Born from the eye of extreme, e'en beneath the 9 netherworlds, deep blue, elusive form. When released, it clung to surfaces and froze the target's soul, never extinguished as long as the soul existed. It also significantly increased the target's sensitivity when used with spiritual power. I guessed it was Een fire from the name. The freezing stuff made sense, but the sensitivity boost sounded sketchy. Picture a battle where I hit someone with this flame and it amps up their physical sensitivity. A tough cultivator might shrug it off, but against a woman? The mental image was too compromising. I asked the system if this was even a legitimate fire seed. Turns out sensitivity covered all sensation, pain, tingling, everything. Minor damage in a fight would become unbearable pain with the amplification. That was huge for combat. Might also have interesting applications for cultivators practicing the joyful union path, but I wasn't going there. I planned to use it for alchemy and weapon crafting. Benefits outweighed the drawbacks. As long as I didn't use it on female classmates, we were fine. At the end of that week, the elite class assessment details dropped. October 24th. A practical exercise at Molan Mountain outside Linjiang City. All senior students at 4th level Qi refining or above. Teachers would set up challenges to test adaptability in combat. Top scorers got into the new elite class with personal guidance from Liao Qingfeng. I thought Liao Qingfeng was quite the player, creating a battle royale. I didn't have a burning desire to join the elite class given the secrecy issue, but I was eager to test my combat ability. I set a goal: break through to 5th level Qi, refining before the 24th, and perfect the slanting wind sword technique. Li Peiron's excited voice cut through my thoughts. He just broken through to 5th level. Spiritual energy was pouring off him. He grabbed my hand and announced it. I'd literally just said I was going to break through to 5th level, and he'd done it first. Was he voice-controlled? I was happy for him, though. After school, I headed to the Morning Light Cultivation Club. Their cultivation rooms had way stronger spiritual energy. At the front desk, I ran into Lu Yi and Zhuang Chunya. He was surprised to see me there. Zhuang Chunya's face tightened. I'd been using the monthly card that belonged to her. I told Lu Yi I'd luckily found a card that some idiot had lost. Zhuang Chunya's face went sour. She was the idiot. She told me that without talent, even the club couldn't help me get into the top class. Lu Yi jumped in before I could respond, saying there was nothing wrong with working hard. Being better than your past self every day was already good enough. I decided not to stoop to her level. I agreed with Lu Yi, said I just needed to be better than myself, and added that maybe if I kept striving I'd surpass some people eventually. Then I walked off. The receptionist called after them. She told Lu Yi and his crew not to underestimate me. I've been coming for days and making great progress. One day, I might even surpass them. Inside the meditation room, I forgot about everyone else. The meridian opening pill hit my stomach like a small beast trying to rampage through me, but the 10,000 Things Sensing chapter tamed it instantly. The medicinal power went docile, stimulating and strengthening every inch of my meridians. After some time, I felt it, an invisible shattering, like a cage breaking open. My aura exploded outward. Qi refining level 5. Done. With my doubled comprehension, the sect master title giving me a 20-fold bonus, abundant spiritual energy, and enough pills, I finally made it. My body could hold more spiritual energy than ever. I was confident that facing Gao Siyuan now at the same 5th level, I could crush him without swordsmanship. Even Zhuang Chunya, at peak 6th level with her B-level technique, I felt like I could fight her and win. At 4th level, I was already outputting 7th level damage. 5th level was a whole new story. I went to the Taishu realm and landed on the cultivation island Xia Chensi had set aside for me. I activated the 10,000 Things Sensing chapter at full power and sent my flying sword skyward. It came down like a meteorite and slammed into the combat power testing machine. 210 points. Peak 7th level, bordering on 8th. Even in Class 1, that'd be average. In my Class 6, apart from Lu Yi, I had no rivals. I switched back to the 5 grains absorption technique and tested again. 159 points. Normal 6th level. I calculated that once I hit 7th level Qi refining, Even without revealing my real technique, I'd crossed the threshold for the top class. After consolidating my realm and taking a medicinal bath to clear out the pill residue, I got out wearing a robe. Xia Qinzi was banging on the door. She took one look at me and froze. My spiritual energy was restrained post-breakthrough, eyes clearer than usual. Wet hair, bangs hanging down, handsome face. I could see the exact moment I struck her heart. Her face went hot. She asked if I'd broken through. I didn't hide it. I'd already switched to the 5 grains absorption technique, so nobody could spot the real one underneath. She said, let's practice together. We faced each other in the battle room. She told me not to go easy on her because she was a delicate flower. If anyone else heard that, her dad would have them dismember me. I launched forward with the wind walk technique and slanting wind sword technique combined. Xia Qinzi stayed calm. She raised her little pink fist and threw what looked like a normal punch. My sword light hit her fist like I'd slammed into a mountain. Force bounced back in waves. That familiar feeling. Before I could last 3 or 4 seconds. Now I felt like I could go longer. I poured everything into the strike. Sword light surged. Wind howled. Her hair blew back, and surprise crossed her face. She said my sword was harder and stronger than before. I still couldn't break through her fists, but I was way stronger than last time. 30 seconds later, I sheathed my sword and stepped back. She skipped over, eyes sparkling. She said at this rate the 6 grades would be a piece of cake. I laughed. If getting into the top 6 universities was easy, they wouldn't be the top 6. You needed over 720 to even think about it. She said, let's get late-night snacks to celebrate, her treat. We agreed to meet at the front desk in 15 minutes. I got there first. It was late. The receptionist had left. I saw Lu Yi and Zhuang Chunya coming out from their cultivation. Zhuang Chunya seemed to be in a good mood. Lu Yi said something that made her giggle. When she saw me, she tilted her head up like a proud peacock. Lu Yi told me Zhuang Chunya had just broken through to 7th level. Wasn't that amazing? She was basking in it, wanting me to clearly see the gap between us. Lu Yi added that people were just different and clever tricks only got used so far against absolute talent. I widened my eyes like I'd been gut punched. I clutched my chest, stumbled back 2 steps, and looked at her with a pained expression. I said she'd actually broken through, and I was so shocked. I've been working so hard, I couldn't take it anymore. I was about to break through too. The aura of a 5th level chi refining cultivator shot into the sky. Zhuang Chunya's face was pure question marks. Lu Yi and Zhuang Chunya stood there speechless. Zhuang Chunya's fists were clenched tight, face showing anxiety and rage. It was like biting into a peach and finding a worm wiggling its butt at you. She'd just broken through to 7th level, and I'd already broken through again. How shameless. I suddenly stepped forward and grabbed her hands. My eyes were full of tears. I thanked her. She and Lu Yi were my lucky stars. Without them, I never would have broken through to 5th level so fast. I was so moved. Zhuang Chunya's mind went blank. Her spirit got trampled and ground into dust. Then an unprecedented wave of regret hit her. Her face went white as paper. Why had she shown off? If she hadn't, I wouldn't have been stimulated and wouldn't have broken through. She hated it so much. Even though I'd only hit 5th level, the pain this caused her was way worse than the joy of her own 7th level breakthrough. Xia Qinzi walked over in a simple t-shirt and jeans. Taller than Zhuang Chunya, her bright presence instantly overshadowed her. Lu Ye's eyes lit up. Zhuang Chunya realized everything was going wrong today. Her breakthrough joy got destroyed, and now an even prettier girl was eclipsing the beauty she'd been proud of. Lu Yi asked Xia Qinzi what her relationship with me was. She stood there with one hand on her hip and poked her cheek. She said it depended on the situation. If we were in the Taishu realm, then we'd be... And then she started making muffled noises because I'd rushed up and covered her mouth. I dragged her toward the exit. This girl had 0 filter. If she kept talking, the whole class would know by tomorrow. My reputation as a pure, innocent young man was on the line. I called back that she was half a friend. Not close at all. Lu Yi watched us disappear, wondering what half a friend meant. Then his expression changed. Zhuang Chunya's spiritual energy started fluctuating wildly. Her body trembled, face alternating between crying and laughing. The double hit from me and Xia Chensi had shattered her composure. Her already unstable cultivation was heading for chi deviation. Lu Yi struck the back of her neck, knocked her out, and caught her. The chaotic energy gradually calmed. He sighed and carried her toward the parking lot. At the barbecue place next to the club, Xia Chensi was gnawing on fat and feeling indignant. She asked why I'd stopped her. I asked if she didn't know why. Don't ruin my reputation. I still needed to find a girlfriend someday. She puffed out her chest and asked if it was such a loss to be my girlfriend. I told her she'd have to bark like a dog 3 times in front of Li Peiran before I'd agree. She realized she'd walked into another trap. Saying she could accept being my girlfriend meant she liked me a little. Her cheeks went pink. She took a huge bite of meat and said no way. If I wanted her to like me, I'd have to become more capable than her first. Did I expect her to protect a grown man? That'd be embarrassing. I smiled and stopped teasing her. But would I surpass Xia Chensi? Maybe it wouldn't take long. Next day after fire control practice, I got to class, and the atmosphere shifted. Everyone was chatting until I walked in, and it went quiet. Even Gao Siyuan and the exam-qualified students were staring. But unlike before, now everyone's eyes had envy mixed with awe. Zhuang Chunya sat looking pale. She glanced at me and looked away fast. If Lu Yi hadn't knocked her out yesterday, her 18 years of cultivation would have been wasted. Even thinking about it gave her chills. All thanks to me. Li Peiran ran over and asked if I'd really broken through to 5th level. I said I was lucky, mainly thanks to a benefactor. The classmates got more envious and asked who this benefactor was. Zhuang Chunya snapped her pen in half. The crack echoed through the room. She said she'd used too much force and buried her head in her arms. A group of classmates swarmed my desk asking for advice. Gao Siyuan was massaging my shoulders from behind. 10 minutes later, Zhao Bingxing walked in and dropped the news. Class 6 and Class 1 were going to have a joint weapon crafting class.